All right. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, January 3rd. This is night 2 of the advisory committee. On the agenda for this evening, we will meet with the tree warden and then go over public works and transfer station line items. So, up first, Mr. Case. How are you, sir?
Great. Brad, how are you doing?
Doing well?
Yeah.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
What's the department number?
294.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, out of here.
So, Mark, for the benefit, we've got Ian who's new, and just for the benefit of those who might be tuning in at home, if you wouldn't mind just providing just a brief overview of what your responsibilities are.
Sure.
And how that fits in with the town, and then we'll just go through your budget.
Sure. So, every town in the Commonwealth is required to have a tree warden. And the tree warden has to have a long time experience or degrees in arboriculture. And they have care and control of all the trees that fall within the town right away. Also, if the town doesn't have a parks department, then the trees that fall within any of the town parks is under the jurisdiction of the tree warden, as well as the cemeteries. So we have a cemetery department, but yet I oversee the trees that are in the cemeteries, but it gets out of a separate budget. We've done some trees over the past 4 or 5 years, and that gets paid out of the cemetery, not out of the tree budget. We got ourselves kind of in a strange predicament this last year. National Grid came in 2016 and 2017 and did some feeder work improvements. They took down 92 trees. All those trees were petitioned and everything, which left us with an awful lot of waste that we had to dispose of. The National Grid would bring the trees down below the wire levels, and then I requested when they did that they put all the large wood on the ground. We were able to, we have a pretty good working relationship with National Grid on the tree end of it, and we were able to corner them and get them to supply us with a cleanup crew. So we got zapped with the disposal. And so right now, 2018, we only have $250 left in our disposal budget, and we haven't done any tree work to speak of, any other than, down trees and such like that. So moving forward, I got notified about 3 days ago that National Grid is planning on doing an improvement on another section, which is feeder number 225 WI, which basically is Harvard Road, Green Road, Ballville, Forbush Mill, that whole section, Vaughan, Wilder. And the list of potential trees for removal is around 70. And that includes private trees. I haven't even gone out and really looked at any of them. I've driven around a little bit and noticed the tagging that they've been marking, but we're going to be in the same situation 2019.
Okay.
So I'm requesting an additional $3,000 for the disposal. And we've been hovering around the same number for a long time. And the tree trimming budget too, I'm also requesting an additional $1,300. That gives us about a day with another bucket truck. So not huge money, but basically the total budget was $4,300.
So the tree trimming line item in your budget is clearly the largest number, right?
Yeah,
and so for this year, budgeted 18, it's 35.7. To your point just a couple seconds ago, juicing that up another 1,300 to 37,000.
Yeah.
So that money, in those examples you provided, that went to national.
We never paid, no, in 2000, we had, the town sends out a bid contract, we receive a bid, we do it for every 2 years. So in the past, Northern Tree Service out of Palmer's had it, Ross McGinnis out of Holden's had it. The newest one is Pathfinder Tree Service, and they're out of somewhere near Boston. We have not had them come in. They were awarded the bid 1st of July. Took a little while to get back their contract, but we have not used them yet. So that's, the tree trimming is hiring the crew to actually do the removal of the tree. Then we have the detail line item, so we have the detail officers, and then we have the disposal line item. And it's finally listed as disposal. For
Yeah.
years, we've been fumbling along with like additional or
Yeah.
miscellaneous, so.
All right, so where you said you were down to just a couple of dollars, that was in the disposal line.
Disposal only.
Because National Grid came in and put the disposal number
on
on
us. But
on you.
But they
Okay.
did more work,
they
didn't
did,
they?
they did a huge amount of work,
Yeah.
which we didn't have to pay for. So
Mhm.
our trimming line item, in fact, what I sort of plan on doing is using some of the tree trimming money to cover some of the disposal when we get this next round of tree work done.
Where's the cleanup crew that they give you? Is that to help you with disposal?
What they've done in the past, yes, not to help do the disposal, but that basically you use the tree trimming line item to do tree removal and cleanup. And so they in the past, they have given us free reign with like a bucket crew and the cleanup crew for a couple days, and we were removing trees that weren't even putting the wires injected. They could be on the opposite side of the street, basically, you know,
In the near
in the near,
vicinity.
exactly, and it was at our discretion, the
Yeah.
town's discretion. So that's happened quite a bit. This time, they gave us some help with the cleanup of the trees that they actually removed.
Okay.
So like I said, as of now, we're down to like $250 or something in the disposal. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's 250.
Yep. But the tree trimming, I mean, you mentioned that it took a little while for this new organization to get back to you with a contract. You historically waited through the winter, right? I mean,
No,
do you not do a large portion of the trimming right down towards the end? April, May, June?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And if we have a light winter and there's not much snow, and we can get crews in, then we do. You know, sometimes the crews are more readily available. Northern had the contract for years. They're a huge company. They have 52 bucket trucks and a huge land clearing division. And you know, they'd send us a crew like the day before Christmas kind of thing because they didn't have any place for them to go, and which works out great. I mean, but
Yeah.
I'm not really sure the overall sizes. This new contractor, I think it's. I know it's a veteran-owned company, but it seems like it's relatively small,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see how it works out.
Okay.
How often does National Grid come along and decide?
Well, they maintain and try to trim their easement around the wires every 3 to 5 years. They've done some major improvements in town. They brought 3-phase up over Waterquatic down to 117. We just had an outage during this last storm, which would have knocked out almost half the town, but because that feeder is now in place, the lights flickered for a brief moment, and the switchgear did what it's supposed to do, and we got fed from a whole other area. Bolton is the end of 3 lines. So it comes from Northborough, Leominster, and another substation. So we get fed a bunch of different ways, and if anything happens between here and Northborough, we suffer.
Yeah, I mean, and just in general, they have taken heat
Oh, yes.
from all their
Huge-
customers,
huge heat.
not just in Bolton, I mean, across New England, so.
They did some major improvements to the infrastructure in the last 5-6 years. Replacing the whole feeder that comes from Berlin, which was terrible. I mean, if the wind blew or a squirrel decided to drop an acorn, we lost power. So it's a whole, I mean, they've done some wonderful things. And so we're, like I said, they've identified these trees. I haven't even had a chance to look at them, but I know that we're going to be dealing with roughly about the same kind of money for disposal, and
You don't have it.
we don't have it.
Yeah. All right, I don't have, I'll open it up to the folks. Any questions for Mark?
I was just
Ready
looking
for
at 2017 actual and budgeted, and I was wondering why you didn't even use it in your disposal. Is that
We used
right?
Yeah,
The
actual,
budget was 41.
actual of 17, the disposal was 2382, so is it fair to say that that was a light
Exactly.
National
Yeah.
Grid year?
Yeah, see, we got a lot of trees removed, but we, coming out of the tree trimming budget, would have been disposing of to National Grid those trees, so. But no, you're correct.
And you're saying National Grid comes in only so often?
Well, because to do the pruning, like I said,
Yeah.
every 3 to 5 years, when they do the pruning, they're also identifying trees that are a potential problem.
Okay, yeah.
Just because they made it on the list doesn't mean they're gonna get cut.
Yeah.
And we have to go out and evaluate them. Obviously, if they're dead, then they're dead.
No
But if
brainer.
there's, if we can deal with removing just a liter of it and buying some time or whatever, we try to do that. But
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve 294 tree warden as is.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care.
The handoff.
Swap the kid.
Yeah.
See you in the morning. Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right. Mr. Lynch,
Hello,
how are you, sir?
good. You guys all know Leslie,
Absolutely.
returning visitor, and I'm
Yes.
happy to meet you folks.
Brad,
Brad,
Hi, Brian.
Brian, and we met the other day.
Yes, we
Good to see you again.
Connie.
Connie, nice to meet you. And Ted.
Oh, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
How's it going?
I love it here.
You saw Ted's notes, right?
I did. I have it right here. They're pretty accurate.
all right, so let's, so Joe, as you well know, you are responsible for an awful lot of the various budget line items. My thought is we'll just go in order here of the agenda. So we'll start off with 190, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
And you know what, how about I turn things over, first and foremost, I know you spent a healthy amount of time with,
That was very beneficial.
Yeah.
You gave everybody a chance to get on the same page pretty early on.
yep.
Thank you for offering that.
Ted, Ann, do you want to kick things off on any,
I don't think we're going to take up a lot of time. We just had a very productive meeting, and we found the DPW certainly is understanding of their mission and very capable in carrying it out, and we got a lot of confidence in this.
I think the other thing is with this inaugural year of your stewardship, I think we really felt that he was looking at the right things, and we tended to think that rather than go in and slash and burn, he needed some flexibility to be able to identify where there was some efficiencies, where he might want to do some things differently. And so.
And I think we highlighted those, and
Yeah, you
I think
did.
we also identified some areas that we thought we had some cushion, we gave up, some money
Yeah.
on individual lines. We'll highlight those as we go through
Yeah.
the discussion. I think net, we literally gave up about $1,500, maybe $2,500 on the bottom line. And again, these were areas I thought were, reasonable soft spots that we would be okay with.
yeah,
Some of that we did ask, much like Mark just mentioned, there were areas that we overspent on and others areas we underspent on. We can look to adjust between those lines, but net bottom line not changing that much.
yeah. And you're familiar with the recent law change over the past year where you have a little added discrepancy
The
to
Municipal
kind of,
Modernization Act, a wonderful thing.
yeah.
Brad, we also held your advisory account as a backstop as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're aware of that if, we have, on advisory, we have,
And a reserve fund.
A reserve fund, yeah. So if things absolutely get desperate and you've gone all over the place and we're, coming down the wire, simply get in front of Linda or Dawn and ask, get yourself on.
I appreciate that. And And again, but I think it's premature to come to the bank this early in the budget process and in the
I
fiscal
would agree,
year.
I'm glad to hear it, because it was gonna be a no anyways.
Yeah, so, we
I don't wanna see you until June.
We had an unforeseen, unexpected $2,100 expense with an air quality issue in this building that we had to address right away. You
Yeah.
can't say, well, I'm gonna wait for the money. No, you just have to deal with it. We did. I notified Dawn and Linda after conferring with them ahead of time, notified them in writing that, this is the amount. It is unforeseen and unexpected. We dealt with it, and hopefully, as the year goes through, we'll be able to absorb it. If not, I'm just giving you a marker, the vendor is out there for discussion in the future.
All right, so, similar to what we did last night, those departments that also have capital items, so the game plan here for tonight is, we'll go through the various budget items, and then we want to spend a little bit of time with you for your capital item requests, knowing that you'll also at some point be in front of capital planning, but want to try and take the best use of your time, so we're not dragging you in here, some other night later on in the process. So that's the game plan for tonight.
Very nice.
So we'll kick things off with line item 190, town buildings. All in all, I'm seeing, an increase of $400 relative to an overall $143,000 budget. So as far as I'm concerned, that's coming in level funded. I mean, I can see the difference in, some repairs and maintenance with a little bit of increase there. But anything of note that you think advisor or anyone else should be aware of within the town 190?
Only an analysis that is completely devoid of any consideration as far as the lines are concerned. But there was discussion that came out of perhaps your committee to the police chief. And he asked me to explore the possibility of him doing away with the dumpster and for me to analyze the value.
We talked about that.
We talked about that. The chief of police was in last night. We
Okay.
talked about that.
And the numbers don't work. It's actually a much better deal considering they're even disposing of the material. So his cost is a very good cost.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to take that on and lose money.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing
We
that's
did
different.
tweak some numbers in here, though.
Yeah.
And are those changes surviving to this meeting, or are we?
I agreed with those at the meeting.
Yeah.
That was to reduce heating from 2,800 to 2,200, but not completely, but to also increase
Yeah, we're gonna take
repairs
that.
and maintenance from the 15,392 requested, increase it to
Add 600
15,992.
there. Yeah, and I don't know.
All right, so what was
The
that?
2,800 becomes 2,200.
Yes, okay.
And then add 600 to the 115,392. So that'd be 115,992.
Okay,
The total doesn't change.
okay.
Like,
Right. Took
Yeah,
the
and
600
we
and
just,
transferred it
we
to another
transfer the
line.
600 to another line
All right.
item, so we're not losing.
And so, you know what, Ted, I was just looking on my phone on all that stuff, so on those things, I'm gonna actually rely on you to, give us
Well,
the
between us
adjust-
here, well.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
And other than that, I think we're able to carry out the mission with regards to that entire item, with the exception of those unforeseen major items that do come up that we just addressed.
And the 17,000 includes 7,000 for the common.
Right.
The grounds,
that was
yeah,
Was
last
the
year.
estimate offered by the
correct, yeah.
proponents.
Do you still feel like that's a good number?
I think it's a good number, depending on the capital request progress, because one of the things I'm looking for in an out year is a larger format mower to make mowing more efficiency. If we can mow it with a larger mower as opposed to hiring a landscaper, it may be more value effective to use the money that we would spend on a contractor to simply pay debt service on a mower and do it ourselves, and then have that larger capacity mower for some of the other areas in town that we also mow. So,
Yeah.
depending on how the capital request discussion moves forward.
Yep. So, if I may, Stan, where are we in terms of final negotiations with that? Like, are we fully owners
We
now?
own it.
We own
We own it.
Okay, that has been
The
completed.
purchase and sale has been executed.
All right,
It's ours.
okay. All right, so if the so with heating going from 28 to 2200, repairs going from 115,392 to 115,992. I'm okay with those changes. If no further discussion on 190, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I second it.
So moved.
All those in favor of those changes as is, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right. So 190, we then
293.
293.
Traffic lights.
All right.
So the traffic lights, there are really two separate lines. There is, one is electricity itself to run them, and then the repair costs to make repairs. Due to an effort to convert several of the old incandescent type of fixtures over to LEDs, we've actually seen some realization in savings on the repair costs. We've even seen that probably tracking in prior fiscal year actuals, and our projection year-to-date so far is actually agreeing with that. So we made some adjustments. We increased the electric light, electricity to run the lights, increased it by $100, making we're altering or modifying our request from $600 to $700 there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the same token, just reducing the $1,900 for repairs, reducing it to $800.
1,800.
$800.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So there's a net $1,000 savings right there.
All right, so there. Okay.
I don't expect any opposition to that.
No. Questions? Anyone? Okay. 293. Entertain a motion to approve for a total of 1,500, with the new line items being 700 and 800 respectively.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? I'm an aye as well. I got a whole bunch of stuff going through my head. So, all right. 421. Okay.
So this is really the meat of the department for
Yeah.
all that it is. It really gets right down to, most of the manpower, salary,
Mhm.
wages, most of the overall recurring costs. We track pretty consistent year to year. Year to date in FY18, we're just a little under our projection. We do most of our highway work after the winter, as we do our winter repair. So, it would stand to reason we would be a little bit under this time of year. So I don't expect to be able to need to change anything, and just the amount requested is adequate to do our job for next year, we believe.
Mm-hmm. Natasha, can you just refresh my memory on the longevity line item? It's
That moved to the treasurer's budget. So you'll see everybody's in
That's
her
right.
budget.
That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, the line stays there because there's historic prior
Exactly.
years,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
nothing in this year.
2 years it'll go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew something was up. I just couldn't remember, but that's right. Okay. Any adjustments
We
within?
did a adjustment and a counter adjustment, the stickers, the inspection
Yes.
stickers, we
Yep.
Okay.
lowered. We went from
5480.
5480 under 421 highway.
There's two of them. There's 5480, which is gas, and then there's 5480-1, which are stickers, which are
And we went from 1,000 to 810. And when you go through these, you don't know what's coming next, so we washed it out, but.
So we're way down there. I know, I'm way up here though, so we skipped over something I'd like to
Oh,
ask a
okay.
question about. The Ted, so what about electric and heating, Ted, heating? Because 2017 actuals were substantially less than the budgeted amount. And I'm wondering how that's tracking right now for 2018.
Well, the actual in 2016 was $4,500.
Right, and so we,
And it's a lot.
Too early.
I'm sorry.
It's too early to get a good heat,
Well,
If you look at
a lot of it
it.
is contingent upon the amount of waste oil. And one could discuss it, but there's no real data to say how much waste oil there's gonna be.
I was just looking at, I just was comparing actual to budgeted for 2017 and just wondered.
No, it's a good question.
I think on the waste oil, I think Harold has said in the past that he's getting less and less of that.
I think that's a fair statement. As people go to synthetic oils, they get longer, you know, I change it at the same rate. You really theoretically can get twice the mileage out of a synthetic oil. And as people gravitate towards that, theoretically you're producing half the waste you used to produce.
Yeah, that in concert with just, I'll use me as an example.
They're just taking it out, you get it
Exactly,
back.
I'm not spending the time doing it myself.
We under budgeted for electric, because you have 85,
Yeah.
84 actually.
But we do get a fair amount, and we continue to use it, and it does certainly augment our ability to save energy by getting heating oil deliveries.
We only had one heating oil delivery. I have no idea. In October, and we just put 2 in this last voucher.
I would expect it would be higher this year. I don't think it was as cold.
Because
We
of
just,
I'll get the next one.
waste motor oil, we don't even know the BTUs consumed. If we knew the BTUs per season consumed,
Yeah.
we could say, well, if it were 100% purchase, it would be this, if it were 100% oil, waste oil, so we just don't have any data to really.
So Nanachka, you're saying this year's run rate, it's too early to really,
For heating, yeah.
We've only paid one heating oil bill, and that was
Right.
in early October. We
Right.
probably just recently paid 2, which don't show up on our balances
have
now.
that showed up on the
But we're
back.
I'm sure with this cold weather, it's,
That's
we're
the
burning
beginning,
oil.
Right.
And I think the electricity is actually lower than maybe it should be. So, you know, we'll leave the other to wash out.
okay. Connie, are you
Yeah,
satisfied
I'm
with those?
satisfied.
Okay. So besides the sticker moving from 1,000 to 810, Ted, what other,
Then we add, that's a delta of 190 down, then we added that 190 to something.
Parts and supplies, I think?
5241.
Yeah, repairs.
We added it to
Yeah.
5241.
Repairs.
Repairs.
We did, okay.
And so we took that up to 57,000, where is it?
57,190?
Yeah.
Yeah, 57,190.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if the beginning of the day or the end of the day makes any difference, but
Every
as
little
we
bit
talked
helps
to
with our
it, we
fleet.
tried to make each one item precise.
Yep,
Can I bring up one caveat?
absolutely.
DPW is under contract negotiations, which, you know, we won't talk about, but so these wages are the same. They haven't been increased at all.
But the numbers that we're looking at, Nanachka,
So
are
just-
reflecting the COLAs.
Yes.
Only,
No, because
No
DPW
COLAs.
is contract.
Change.
Okay.
right.
So you'll
I
see
only-
that retro at some point. Who knows when.
All
I
right.
only have a couple of employees who have step increases. The step increases are included only, but not the COLAs.
Is there anybody who had a step increase?
This coming year, we just Leslie and I believe everybody else is at top step.
Yeah, you guys are non-union.
Yeah,
Right.
the other folks, they're all at their top step. at this
Everybody
point.
else stays the same.
Yeah.
All right, so the concern is, so what I'm looking at, Nanachka, of the total between salary wages, I have 653,962.
Yep.
So you mentioned in negotiation, so you're, I know we have no idea, but are we talking
No idea.
50,000 increase? Are we talking $100,000 increase?
Not a clue. I'm not part of the negotiations. I don't
All
know
right.
anything. Not that I can talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, just for my own clarification, towns handle it different ways. Is the Bolton's tradition to include a set aside for contract negotiation settlements, or
No.
it gets absorbed within the budget?
We'll have to go to a town meeting. If the budget can't handle it, we go to town meeting and appropriate the money.
So their contract expired in
Last
this
June.
past. So
6 months
reality
ago.
is, the issue is a 2-year issue. It's gonna be an
Yes.
FY19 hit and an FY18 retroactive hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, this town.
The negotiations don't happen quickly, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So they are
something
at
to
the
put in the
table
back
and
of
they're
your
making
head.
that.
All right. So any other, okay. So questions? Brian, Ann? No? Fine? Yeah, all right. So, Public Works 421, approve as is with the adjusted changes as just discussed on the repairs line 57,190 and stickers to 810.
So moved.
There's two other changes though that were on that submitted.
Okay.
The parts, we lowered the clothing allowance. It was at 7,420, which is 5,580.
Yeah,
And we took that,
and it went
It
to
went to-
6,300?
and it went
So
to
we should
parts and
took-
supplies,
So
5487.
the difference
We just took the difference and put it there.
from
Okay.
So it's not changing the bottom line, I just,
college.
So it's a change from last year, but it's not a change from what we submitted.
but I
All right, so I don't even, I have requested clothing allowance of 6,300.
right, but that went down from last year.
Yes.
She just pointed it out to you.
Okay.
Difference.
We are happy with
And
that
then,
number.
and then we took that money, put it into parts and supplies because we go through that
Mhm.
by
And
October.
you're happy with the
Yeah.
10,120, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I
No,
just want you guys to know that it wasn't.
Yeah, no, Leslie, I'm seeing that right here. I was, what I'm concerned about making sure is any adjustments on these numbers after the conversation.
Oh.
Ted sent us an email.
Right,
I
right.
just, it's too
Okay,
much of a pain to look at it from, so I'm just asking.
okay, no
Yes.
problem.
All right, so do we,
Good.
So we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a motion, I think.
a
No, it
motion?
was seconded.
And seconded?
It was moved and seconded.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you.
Brian, but you, yeah, thank you. I meant to ask you that last night. I'm like, I am not capturing
Yeah,
the motions in seconds. All right. Snow and sand 423.
Construction maintenance before that, though, 42.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep. All right. So, construction maintenance, what I have is wages of 8,000. Excuse me, public way safety 8,100, and local improvements 194. Any changes from your discussion with
And
Ann and Ted?
There were no changes, but there was a clarification you sought with regards to wages. There was some question whether those were police details or not. I think it was what the question was when we sat together, and we determined that they are not, correct?
No, those are police.
Those are the-
They are, yeah,
They are,
those
yeah.
are all police details.
So the confusion there is a line that's called police details elsewhere in the budget, yet these
Oh.
wages here are only for police details for when we do construction and maintenance on the roadways.
Okay.
I guess we're wondering if,
There's a
for
code, you were saying there was a, you guys were saying.
a more transparent accounting, if we could have the 5137, maybe not say wages, but say police detail
Yeah,
or
but
put
we
an
always need
asterisk or
something.
something.
Or put it in a different account. Is there a police detail account?
Well, it's something different, but I'd rather make a new account, because 5137 is
Yeah,
wages
yeah.
across
Right,
the board.
right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, for example, the tree warden who was just here before us,
Right,
in 294, that 5137 line is entitled police details.
Right.
That's accurate, more accurate in that sense. And that is in fact what this line here is intended to be.
Okay.
And
So,
then we also question kind of the even money year after year, actual budget, actual budget.
Because what we've done, if
Maybe
we've
we
gone over,
overspend it. and-
well, if we've gone over, we've just put it into our salary budget. Nanotchka, you know how
Wasn't listening.
when we get police details?
yeah.
If I've gone over, we put it into the
Yes.
account where all our employees are, it's a 5137
Right,
account
exactly.
too, so it goes there.
all right.
So what I,
So if we change that to police detail, Minachka,
Yeah.
will that then mess up Leslie if she needs to do what she just explained?
Because those are kind of, you never know. When you're gonna,
It's a very variable number.
it's huge, yeah.
No, yeah, that should be fine.
Because she was explaining it was easy for her to go, move it
I
from
mean, it
wage
always
to
goes
a
over,
wage.
which you can see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone over for the last,
Right.
I don't, because
Well,
obviously it hasn't, we haven't spent $8,000.
From where I sit,
we should hit it.
as a manager, what I like to do is
The real number.
I like to know what the real number is.
And
What,
then and then we'll see if how much it's over.
because if we're tracking on a tradition or a very regular $9,000 or $10,000 number, we ought to know that, we ought to budget for that
Right.
appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're gonna track it separately, so we know what that number is as we move into next year's budget.
In my account summaries, I list them as police details, but that's a very
Yeah.
informed, it's,
Yep. So before we move on, I just want to check with Nanachka. Do you have any concerns about changing 5137 wages?
Nope, that's
So
fine.
we can count on you to do that? Fabulous.
Mhm.
All right, police detail. All right. Any other questions? Ms. Chiomo, I noticed that you are in attendance. Do you have anything care to say regarding public way safety? Or just interested in making sure your number is approved?
It's, yes, and we met with Joe and Leslie in November, and we agreed to keep it at the same as FY 2018. I will say that Joe has discussed different new techniques, not new techniques, in the use of sand and salt on the roads. And it may come down to that we only have to paint the lines every other year because there may be less wear and tear on the paint because of the use of less sand.
Yeah.
But time will tell on that. So,
That's a concept that's been, proven to be true, but, every community is a little bit different. Traffic patterns, tree movements across lines all vary, but even the type of paint and the type of weather you put it down in,
So,
if you use optimum paint at the optimum temperatures and less sand.
so tell me about the sand part of it. I mean, is it less sand, are we using too much sand right now, or have been? Because that's pretty expensive.
Everybody has a different approach at handling snow and ice. And, I'm a numbers guy and I'm an engineer and therefore I'm a scientist. And it comes right down to chemistry and, melting points. Sand provides zero benefit whatsoever to melting of ice or snow from the roadway. It provides traction only during the storm itself, but once the snow is gone and the roads are dry, it actually creates slippery roads. That aside, you have good running equipment, properly, meaning spreaders, properly calibrated, and loading it with straight salt, you should be putting down about 120 pounds per lane mile of roadway. With a 5-part sand and 1-part salt, which they have historically been doing, they've been putting down about 600 pounds per lane mile. 5 times, easily 5 times what you would normally need. And all of that sand provides no benefit for melting. And more cleanup in the spring for sweeping and roadway shoulders and catch basins and brooks and drainways and streams and ponds. So you theoretically are using less total salt, less total tonnage of product with properly calibrated machines. We've approached weaning ourselves off in the beginning part of this winter, where we've already gone down to 2-part salt, 1-part sand. We've gone completely the other direction, and we're finding complete acceptance of performance of the roadways.
So when the temperature's 19 and below, I think that's what we were told, the salt doesn't work.
You need to pre-wet it. You have to
So
pre-wet
you
it.
wet it first?
Yep, with liquid calcium chloride. Just-
And are we do
Yes.
that?
We do that. Yep, so that, like I said, it comes right down to chemistry. You have to get that, sand provides zero benefit whatsoever. Now, that's not to say that last Saturday night, or Saturday before Christmas Eve, we worked on the day, we plowed everything off, we treated everything off, and when I came back down here at midnight on Saturday, beautiful starry night, dry air, the moisture that was in the ground, you could see it like fog. You could see it rising out of the ground and glazing right over. In that instance, you can't possibly put the salt on top of it. We had to go out with a
Sand.
stronger sand mix for traction. So there are gonna be instances you have to do it. But in the overall scheme of things, sand is not a good thing, the least of which is the impact on lines, traffic lines. But the reality is like putting sandpaper on top of your traffic lines.
I remember someone on, never mind, it might be a bad subject. I questioned that, you know, why are we using so much sand? This is years ago.
Because we always
It's
did.
so much sand, because we always did.
I look at, again, no criticism, everybody approaches things differently, but, you know, early on, I can determine drainage problems by going out in a rainstorm and just driving around. And every place I saw, the vast majority of the places I saw puddles accumulating in the roadway, it's because the water that used to be able to get off the side of the roadway to
Can't
the
be
shoulder
sand.
Yeah,
is because of mounted
drain.
up historic accumulation of sand on the.
Just have to
in the
look at my
gutters.
front yard, kind
So the goal is, over time, we will, almost immediately, we're weaning ourselves off. I've asked the fire department, and in turn, together, we asked the board of selectmen, and the selectmen agreed to transfer their old tanker truck over to the public works department. We're gonna convert that into a brine truck to help us without pretreatment.
I saw that, and that's what I was gonna ask, and that's what I was,
Yeah, so
when we were getting
gearing
rid
up to
of that truck, that was my I'm so glad to hear you say that, that's what that's gonna be.
I looked at
used
it, I almost said, you gotta be kidding me, I got a machine. All I have someone to say is, yes, yeah, that's a terrific tool that we're gonna have.
for. Do you plan
And
on
you
putting a
can make-
poly tank on the back, or you're
Yeah.
gonna keep it as a
Custom.
metal tank until it?
It's a stainless tank.
Oh, okay.
It's a stainless tank, so we don't wanna make it a poly tank, but we believe we can use the tank that's in there.
Alright.
And we believe we
I'm
can.
sorry to.
No, that, I
Yeah.
just.
So again, that's an approach on one issue that's gonna spin off into potential savings in many different directions, I
So
hope.
you just have to take the truck and don't have to convert it or anything, it's good the way it is?
It's a project, is what it is. We get some spray bars we have to create, but, off-season sort of stuff that we can pick away at.
Wow. That's wonderful,
Good to hear.
yeah.
And
Recycle.
more importantly, the guys down in my operation, they all support it, they all embrace it, they're excited about some of these changes, and, they themselves have gone to a lot of the classes and learned how to deal with snow, they're real excited about it, so it's good for morale too.
Great.
If I may, Mr. Lynch, just take a departure. Mary, the 8100, the game plan, can you just share a little bit of what the game plan is for you with that 8100? Is it repainting everything? Any plans for moving forward on other things, if you may share?
With the DPW budget, it's for the 13 roads, for line painting, and for signage replacement and updating. Public Ways will be submitting a warrant article for a pedestrian crosswalk light at the crosswalk at 117 at Mechanic, but that's not DPW related. I mean,
Okay.
they're helping us with it, but, yeah.
Yeah. And you're gonna work on trying to find some grant money for that?
If the cost, Joe came up with a cost of $22,000. We got approval from planning to use the $9,000 that exists in the pedestrian walkway fund to help, to reduce the costs that we would be asking the town
Okay.
for. So,
All right. So 422, total budget, $210,100. Any further questions on this? All right, entertain a motion to approve as is.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
423, snow and sand. So we had a little bit of a discussion.
Just kind of got into it.
Yeah. So, Joe, I'm sure you're aware of, the philosophy of what the town of Bolton has incorporated is to keep this, at a certain level, knowing that once we raise it, it's a no going backwards. You can see on past actuals, in some cases, we have heavily blown this thing. So we as a group have especially the last couple of years, we continually discuss the idea of moving it off of 180 to 200 or 220. But we haven't. If what I heard from you just a few minutes ago, I'm inclined to keep it exactly at 180, but I'd like to hear your perspective and if you wouldn't mind sharing your previous town's philosophy.
So I
on this.
smile because this is the fourth community I work with, and every single community, every single year wrestles with that discussion. It always runs more than budgeted, not occasionally. It always, sometimes it runs substantially more. 2015 was probably astronomically more. I just looked at the numbers and it was. I mean, the reality is it comes down to a philosophy, absolutely. It's one of the, if not the only, maybe one of the only accounts you can deficit spend in the course of a fiscal year. Now, the trade-off on that is two things have to happen at the end of the year. You either do a reserve fund transfer to absorb it, or not, and if you don't, it then hits your free cash when it gets calculated,
Yeah.
and that just simply reduces your free cash position. So towns will typically wrestle with it prior to close of the fiscal year and move money over to cover that.
And we've done both. I mean,
And if it doesn't hit your free cash, if you don't have free cash, then it hits your cherry sheet on local aid. So those are the choices, and towns are always pressed with, is this the year to notch it up a bit? Recognizing once you do,
yeah,
it's there forever. That's your new bottom line.
yeah.
So it truly comes down to philosophy, and I'm not comfortable with what Bolton's philosophy might be, but from what I'm hearing is it's not unique to any other town that wrestles with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think so you're right, you're looking at some stuff. It must have been 14. I mean, one of the actuals, which is fallen off, it has been some recent history. It came in right around 180 or under, and that's been our hesitation of moving it up. So it's clearly before 2015.
And we've always covered it.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
Of course,
All
it's
right.
getting a little bare bone. Now, we don't have money turned back like we used to as much.
Depends on the year.
Yeah, well,
So I don't want to speak out of turn, but my pecking order was correct. Either reserve fund transfer at the end, if not, it hits your free
We
cash.
usually do
calculation.
both.
If people don't turn back free cash, then it affects
Right,
your
we'll
cherry
take
sheet.
whatever's left to reserve fund, we'll take from everybody's department, and then if we have nothing left, we'll go to the town and ask.
So the question becomes philosophically is, does this committee recommend to the Board of Selectmen, does the town meeting agree that this is the year to do that? In essence, you're basically preemptively transferring some of the money upfront. That's the question you guys
but then
wrestle
it's
with.
always there.
And it's all, you can never reduce it from
Yeah.
that.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and that, and I agree with you that there's nothing to say that there's anything, it's just a difference of approach and philosophy of you relative to the previous person. I would be really interested to see what your first winter, look with the philosophy that you've implemented. Granted, the unknown is the weather.
So my goal, one unknown is absolutely the weather, and it's going to fluctuate very year to year. Now, I like to look at it on a more trending basis, and I also look at things on a life cycle basis. For example, something as simple as those metal cutting edges on the bottom of your plow. We double them up, we get one season out of them, they're about $700 to put on your truck. We're setting up 3 of our trucks this year with segmental cutting edges, with carbide cutting edges. They're $1,800 for the last 5 years.
Do the
They're-
math, right?
Right, do the math, it's a net savings, and you're not gonna see it in the first year, but the second year, you're automatically gonna see it, and never mind the fact that you're gonna get less noise, because they don't vibrate as much, therefore less driver fatigue, so you get better performance for the truck, less wear and tear on the truck, and the drivers themselves can get a little more endurance, all for saving money. So that's an approach that I like to use. So you may not see right out of the gate a savings in year 1, but the second year you will, the third year you absolutely will.
Yeah, no, I'm simply talking just the fact that you mentioned that, you're planning on using more salt than sand, right? And what,
But less so total. But less
Yeah.
salt total.
Exactly, right? And knowing that what we've spent, what we've had to go out and buy for salt and sand in years past, right?
Now, salt increased this year by about 10%.
Yeah.
Last year, for the first time ever, salt decreased. I don't know, in Bolton it did, but I know in Milton, when I bought it, it was actually almost 8% lower than the year before. First time in my career I've ever seen that. Salt will typically increase year to year, so the more efficient you can, and more frugally you can use it, the better off you're gonna be, because salt's typically always gonna increase.
All right. Well, I don't want to get totally held up on this. What I'd like to do is expand the conversation more to advisory, knowing that if you're okay with it, that at some point, some other night, we'll vote on snow and sand, and it's either, in my opinion, we're either going to keep it at 180, or we will have come to some type of consensus to potentially look
I
to.
understand that. You guys have to consider in the big picture.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
We would, yeah, so,
We will do what we've always done with the 180,
yeah.
and
For the
if you
time-
increase
Yeah.
it, it's only gonna improve that.
I do want to have a further discussion with folks on advisory, even rope in the selectmen and see, you know, is this in fact the year? So if you don't mind, if you guys are okay with this?
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
I just want to, I'm not sure I understand what your preferred position would be. Like, you would rather us adjust the number up to something closer to actuals?
It comes right down to philosophy. I mean,
Well, let me put my cards on the
if
table.
money were no object, like every other budget, you ought to be looking at your trends, seasonally adjusted for weather and climate, and find some reasonable number in the middle and budget for that. But money is always an object, and that's what you guys have to wrestle
Because
with.
my concern, like, I think tonight's discussion made a really great point, which is that when we just set the number at 180 from year to year, we start to lose sight of efficiencies, like your whole exploration of salt versus sand and all that. Like, we just see the same number year to year and say, well, we'll spend what we need to spend. But if we have a slightly more realistic budget for this, I think it incentivizes careful management of how things are being spent and tracking the trends. So I'd be in favor of potentially adjusting it up from 180 to something more realistic.
But what's realistic? It varies
Right,
from year to year.
the
So
weather.
you can't predict what a realistic budget
There
is.
is- Exactly.
I'm with,
But the average over 5 years has never been less than $200,000. And I'm sure that salt and sand has gotten expensive. We haven't even adjusted for inflation.
Well, that's fine, but don't say realistic number, you know, come figure out what the number is.
But yes,
Right.
Yeah, a better guess.
Yeah, no, and so it's this, I think it's a fair question that Brian is asking to get a sense. I think it goes back to the conversation last night when we asked the police chief about, you know, the ideal for his police cruiser, right? We were trying, like, what the hell do you need a light bar for, right? And it ultimately came down to, he's the guy in charge, he knows what's best. I think that's where Brian was getting it from you. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's this conversation that we need to have a little bit further discussion, but not hold up the rest of the night on this.
you just say it's philosophy too, though, that's
Yeah,
neither right
well,
nor wrong.
philosophy in the heart and strategy moving forward, it's really both, and recognizing the limitations in the budget process. So those all come into play, and I don't envy you folks one bit. Like I said, every community I've ever worked with have wrestled with this question every year.
yeah.
I mean, we've talked in the past about.
I know, I know.
Right out.
You
Oh,
need
we
a
never had.
statistician who would take the data and determine if you want 97.5% confidence limits that you're gonna be, you know, within the budget, then you set it at 3 sigma lower, you know,
Yeah,
than that.
yeah, I know that, I mean, we can,
So,
you know,
but
between
at
the
the end of
number,
the day.
no, exactly, yeah, the number of years that I've been on advisory, I can go back and look at.
It is,
And I've been longer than you and it's the
Exactly.
same thing.
So between you and I and Nanachka, we could pull probably 12 years of
And do an average
actuals
and see what it looks like.
and do an average,
Yeah.
and then, you
and
know,
then
tap
you
into
take standard
Joe.
deviations.
And I would
and
still not feel
do
comfortable.
a
No, exactly, right? Because then in
The weather.
the minute we juice it to whatever it is, right?
It's gonna-
We'll just
Yeah.
we'll hypothetically pick Brian's 200 grand, right? We'll come in and we'll have, a Florida weather here. And
And we'll be under and we'll say, well, that was the
Yeah.
2.5% that the 97
I know, but
didn't cover, you know?
But the last actual was just, 17 was 496. The actual before that was 257. I
But if the
that-
180
And then-
works.
Then you said
It-
last
it
year
works.
salt went down, so,
Well,
there's
again,
some
in my
different.
community that I worked in, I'm not sure what it went
Yeah.
to.
Well,
I
so,
don't remember.
and then you're gonna save us money on,
I mean, raising it up, it just kind of cushions you at the other end
Yeah.
yeah.
to some degree. And,
Yeah.
and upping it to 20 grand is not a killer, but it cushions a little bit, and then we can run with that for a little bit. And if we want to goose it to 2.25 or something like that,
Exactly.
we can.
That's
because,
what I'm,
because it's we're not getting a dangerous level. Not that we want to raise it to say 450,000 or 500,000.
Yeah.
That would be responsible. But upping it 20 grand just to give us that 20 grand of cushion at the other end in the spring
Not
Yeah.
bad idea.
is not a bad idea.
Not a
Yeah.
bad idea.
so on that vein, Jonathan, your thoughts on this?
I like Brian's idea of figuring out the average. That makes sense.
So you're not inclined to agree with Stan on what
Yeah,
you just
I
said?
agree with Stan, upping it to 200,000 or 225, whatever that average is.
All right. Others?
200.
It's
Show us the data.
shooting
Where you get
darts,
us-
but I think
Alright.
getting
If
something
you get
closer to
25
reality is a good
points, you
idea.
get Quite a bit of
You can get
confidence.
actuals going way back.
Yeah.
It's all.
All right, so let's,
I got
all right.
that.
No, I mean, I've got two
It's all
selectmen
Six Sigma
opinion.
stuff.
I've got two opinions from the selectmen, got some ideas, so we'll table this, we'll have a
Good.
discussion, and Nanachka, if we can work on trying to go back
It's the most data that we have.
as much
far back
actuals
you
as we
go.
can and take a look.
1840.
It'll probably be like 12 years.
I think, I was gonna say, I think 10 or 12 years is
Yeah.
probably a good average.
Alright,
There's 30 data points if we did.
420, so 424, street lighting. Any changes here, guys? Okay. I have electric as 6,000 and repairs as $750.
Right, so we believe that we're trending on a, both historic and year-to-date. We think the repairs ought to be, the electric ought to be changed to $7,200.
Right.
So the 6,000?
Discussed, yeah.
Okay,
But on the same token, the repairs can go from $750 down to $100.
okay. So that's a total of 8,200. Okay. Any questions on that? Connie, Brian?
Sorry, what was the total?
So,
7,300.
yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's right, 7,300. All right, so all those in favor of 424 street lighting, electric going to 7,200, repairs going to 100, for a total of 7,300. All those in favor?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
all right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. And let's see, 424, so then we go on to
433.
yeah, 433,
That's the transfer station?
transfer station. All right.
So Bolton is not unlike many communities where human nature and socio-economic position has a very consistent solid waste stream. Their numbers track pretty consistently year to year, and we're tracking FY18 right on course. We're 45% of the way through the fiscal year, we're 47% expended. So we're very confident and comfortable with these numbers. I don't think there'll be any changes to it.
So there's one vote.
We had
And we
one.
did,
It was just a shift from one line to another?
no, it was
Reducing
5487, the maintenance, we reduced it to $9,000 and gave $1,500 back to the general fund.
Right,
On that one line, that is correct.
right.
And we also discussed, Matt, that this is the table for it, but changing the hours of the Wednesday transfer station during the winter, because after 5 o'clock, it's so dark, nobody goes there, so it's open until 7.
Well, that
And
is
Joe
that's
was talking
something-
about tracking traffic to get some data to.
So that's just something that-
We're gonna watch,
Assumption.
We're gonna-
I'm not sure there's stomach for it, I'm not even sure there's justification, just in the little bit of time that I've been here, those Wednesday nights are slow.
And
Today
it's
was-
cold and it's dark.
Yeah,
In the winter, it's just a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
Because,
Key for daylight
How many
saving.
people are there at that time that work?
I have 2 people, I always need 2 people for safety reasons, in case someone gets hurt or gets into a
Pretty
compactor.
nice.
Jesus.
Just a safety issue, you always need 2 people,
Yeah.
double coverage.
All right.
So that's something we're looking towards, to at least track, to be able to make an assessment of whether that makes sense or not, propose it separately.
Okay. So do you, I am looking at, I don't actually have a requested FY19 numbers in my,
I think it got
Go over a
like
couple
further
pages.
later. Yeah, it
Oh.
was
It's
like
just,
buried in the middle.
okay. All right.
So I think the new
so if
total,
you go almost to the end, you see the 10,500.
Yeah, so 10, so maintenance goes from 10
9,000.
to 9,000. Okay.
and then the change is just
1,500
based,
goes back to the house.
and just the updated contract changes, where the numbers increase a little bit. Because the contract goes up yearly.
Yeah, trash hauling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the trash hauling, the recycling, and
So we're
But you gotta love the mob.
under contract,
telling ya.
no pun intended. We're under contract through FY19, so all of the rest of this year, all of next year, at which point in time we will go out and revisit the contract and either put it up to bid or put it out to an RFP or negotiate an extension. There's lots of options available. I'm gonna recommend at that time that, through the Board of Selectmen, that we maybe perhaps convene a solid waste advisory committee of various stakeholders from town to look at what we do well, what things we don't do well, we might want to change, and what services we don't provide, or services we are providing that just aren't being used. And maybe tailor before we go out to an RFP to maybe find some way to save some money and get improved service.
Okay.
So that'll wash out over next year and then be prepared to hit the FY20 discussion with those real numbers.
All right. Okay, so, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
I was just saying, only because it's a big number, we would want to have that RFP process complete in late November, early December, so as we enter the budget cycle, we know what those 20 numbers look like, as
Yeah.
opposed to just guessing that they might increase substantially.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a fun summer project then.
Done it before.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve 433 transfer station as is, subject to the one change of maintenance to 9,000.
So, second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right.
So the total's 160,065?
Yep.
All right, so 433, let's see. So then we move,
439?
yes, 439.
That's not
Landfill actually is Board of Health.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Right, sewer,
We
Why do I have
have
landfill on it?
450
and
for the next one, water.
so who's 440?
So we got 450, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All we know is 440 is not DPW.
I think that falls
Is that
under
one?
town hall. That's usually
Oh,
Linda
okay.
and Don's.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
All right, so 450.
So what well was this? Is this the one for,
These are monitoring wells. This is a result of a contamination issue.
or this is the
From
one that?
1997, on DPW, and we have groundwater monitoring requirements from DEP.
It's down the hill.
Downgrading.
Across the road, yeah.
Across the road and downgraded from our site. And it's basically it's a recurring expense. It's pretty straightforward, depends on what they find in any follow-up testing. So you can see it ranging from, at least in the past 3 years, from almost $5,000 and is no lower than $3,600. And the reason we're requesting the $6,000, we're hoping through, my hope is through one final round of robust sampling and analysis, and we may be able to get out from underneath this requirement in all the future years.
Okay,
Finally get released from it.
that would be fabulous. Have you had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Slade? Chris Slade?
No, who is he?
He was Board of Health. The way he positioned these well monitored things is the state has got you. Like once you're in the system of monitoring, Joe, I am hoping you can, believe me, I'm hoping you can do it.
So I've looked at this as the $6,000 as a minor line. What I'm looking at more is the public health implications with regards to the wells. And I've immersed myself into what could you'll see a capital request for $90,000 to make some well upgrades and water system upgrades on private property. That based on everything I've read, I don't believe is necessary. We have an ongoing discussion with town council, we have an ongoing discussion with DEP. We believe, for certain by town meeting, we're gonna have an answer. We believe that within a month, we might be able to get out from under this. And I can withdraw a $90,000 capital request and likely be able to reduce this final round. That's the goal. And, we're working towards that. We wish we could be there in this budget process, but by the time you go to town meeting, before the warrant closes, we'll have that answer for you folks.
Okay.
So Mr. Lowe and I have, very much on top of this and working with council to make certain we've got every I dotted and every T crossed.
Okay. All right. So 450 water well monitoring for 6,000. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, and then 491 cemetery. 8,000. Purchase of services of $3,000 and ground maintenance of $5,000. Questions, issues, concerns? All right, entertain a motion to approve as
So
is.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have 692.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
why is not 439 and 440? I mean, that's included in total public works. Why is that
Well,
poured out?
I was just talking about that, it's on town hall.
Landfill monitoring 439 actually does fall under Board of Health, and it's a very good question, because I asked the same question myself. If 440 does fall under town hall expenses, so I mean, I have no problem taking those on into the budget to defend them and to support them and carry them out, but traditionally, this is what has been done in the past.
Yes, Dan, Joe nailed it, and I'm literally just looking at the agenda that Linda put, and I'm going line item by line item. But it screws me up every year, and then we have, Chris Layden, and he comes in for one item, and, yeah.
All right.
All right, so 692.
Cemetery's okay?
Cemetery's
Yeah,
good.
It's Memorial Day.
All right. Leslie, were you sleeping over there?
No, I missed that whole,
Like, what-
I'm so used to, yeah, I agree,
You
yeah,
just said
second
yeah.
this, blah,
Oh,
blah,
all
blah,
right.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad I'm keeping you sleeping here.
I have good notes.
Have to run out loud.
All right, 692 celebration Memorial Day, and
There's really nothing more or less
Yeah.
than putting the flags out and flowers out.
Flags and
Flags and
flowers.
flowers on the
Yeah.
graves from
That
where they
covers it.
I have no issues, guys. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve 692 as is, 1,300.
Second.
All right. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Okay, so now, let's move to capital items. Joe, if you don't mind. And again, the idea is, since you're here, just wanted to spend a little bit of time with you, kind of going over this stuff.
You know, are you concerned with the out years, or are you just looking at FY19 mostly?
Yeah, 19.
Okay.
With the caveat of, you know, and I know DPW has historically provided a full, strong 5-year, and I can already tell based upon some of your answers, you're on board with that. It's critical that we have an idea of not just what we're dealing with this year, but what's coming up on the horizon. And so a strong 5-year plan is always welcome.
And Joe gave us something with priority setups, so Ted and I did look at that.
Yeah.
Not all priority ones are equal,
So,
right?
that's right, that is correct.
So,
But you know, they are in order of priority, but, right, priority in vehicle, priority 1 vehicles isn't necessarily the same priority as the priority 1 in roadways, for
Is
example.
this something that we all got, or is?
No, this is something that he shared with us when Ted and I met.
I think Linda might have handed it down to everybody.
What's that, the
The 5-year?
It was,
The capital expenditure summary, it was a
yeah, I
different
can't find
format
mine
than was in the
now.
binder.
It's, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got a copy from him.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
So where we have within Public Works so many different things at different levels, whether it's equipment or buildings or roadway construction type of things, or other miscellaneous, they'll quite fit those other 3 categories. We try to break it out in each of those 4 separate sets, if you will, and then try to prioritize them within the overall structure. What I didn't have an opportunity, I only came aboard mid-October, and my approach to looking at capital items is I have in my own mind, I have a capital plan for all of my equipment, the entire fleet, the entire roadway network, which includes signs and sidewalks and curbing and whatnot. In this town, we don't have a stormwater system per se. We would take all of the stormwater catch basins, drop inlets, and piping and culverts and whatnot. We would include those within the road discussion. But we have buildings here as well, and each one of those, you know, have their own unique needs. We also do major capital requests for the schools, because we own the buildings. They take care of the day-to-day maintenance, but nonetheless, we do the capital requests and carry out the capital projects. So we try to look at it from that perspective. In October, I didn't really have a sense or nor the time to really embrace all of those things and put them in place. But what I've worked on and what I'm working on is looking at a full life cycle analysis of my entire fleet, for example. Everything's got an age, everything's got a use, and everything has a useful life. Some trucks last 15 years, some last 12 years, 9 years. The reality is we're using trucks way beyond their useful life, and as a result of that, you're looking at recurring maintenance, deferred maintenance, and major maintenance in those later years. So I look at it all from a life cycle perspective and try to forecast replacement truck today's cost, and then each of the out years as I project it out in the plan, what that forecasted replacement cost would be in a future year. That is a tool. That is not a request. That's simply a tool that I use and that I can convince the capital committee and you folks to say, we need to be looking at that horizon. We need to at least know what it is out there that we're approaching. We may not get there, we may not be able to afford it, but you need to know that. And that's how I approach capital.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you know, similarly with roadways, I know what types of processes we would want to use and what our overall, but not good. This community is pretty good with its roadway infrastructure. A lot of other communities are very, very challenged with maintaining its roadways, and these need some attention, but then you're not running anywhere near the deficit of what other towns are with regards to what you need above and beyond Chapter 90 available funds and our construction maintenance funds. So I'm trying to get a feel for an overall roadway network and all of those pertinent things like drainage and signage and guardrails and things of that sort that go along with those roadways and try to put together a real number. So with that regard, all I'm looking at is those things that Harold identified right up front that were on my desk as I came through and he brought to my attention.
Yeah.
So this first year is a continuation of Harold's outlook for that, with the exception of a couple of things.
Yep.
A skid steer loader which is my vehicle request for FY19, i.e. that's a Bobcat for those who may not know what a skid steer loader is. It is a basic public works type of machine. It's used through the entire year. It can have various attachments put on it, everything from brooms to snow blowers to plows to regular bucket work that you need to do. We don't have one, and it's a rare thing that a public works department doesn't have one, and I think it's a valuable machine that can be used the year round and not something that would just be used occasionally and parked the rest of the time.
And the staff that you have in place?
All have licenses. I have 6 people with licenses in place who can operate this thing.
Okay.
And depending on what attachment's on it, I might actually, even some of the laborers can run it, so long as they're not lifting a load over 4 feet, that's more than 2,000 pounds.
So I have a question. So what we're using now for all of this type of work is insufficient, or we don't have?
Mostly manual labor, or we're contracting it out, or we're simply not doing it. Like the accumulation of sands on the roadway gutters.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to know what we're contracting out and how much that would cost, and what we aren't doing. You know, I mean, we haven't ever been told any of that. Like, what aren't we doing that this thing can do? Sweep, grind, plow, and snow blow. We're not doing some of those things now?
I could tell you just the very one item, just right off the bat, that the ability to clear sidewalks downtown.
Just gonna say that, yeah.
That is an area that I think is a deficiency, that needs to be done more reliably, needs to be done more consistently. It's extremely difficult, if not downright impossible, to do it manually. This is an opportunity just on that one item to actually
I love
accomplish
the
that.
idea of a
Well,
homeowner
you know,
doing their own front of the lawn.
yeah, well,
No.
and you know, was there some kind
The
of
sand,
law
I'm
or
upset
something that, I know in some towns, the homeowner.
It's not a law, it was a case,
Is it?
it was a case that, I forget the citation, I wish I remembered it, but there is a case that ruled relative to natural accumulation versus manual placement of
Yeah,
debris,
because
which was interpreted to mean that a homeowner is liable
to
for,
move with falls.
well, if somebody falls and gets hurt in front of your house, even if it's a town sidewalk and the town plowed snow up onto that sidewalk, the case law was the homeowner was liable. That was about 10 years ago. I wish I had the citation off the top of my head, but
I don't know, I remember sitting at this table and, I can't remember which year it was, that the homeowner is responsible for moving the snow, and we dropped it. We said, oh, okay, and that's what's supposed to happen, so we don't have to worry about it, they should remove the snow. Is that not true?
it's not in the written policy, it's not in any town bylaw that I could find.
Don't you remember?
I do, and I mean, it's just something that, you see on every
Let me
newscast.
say differently. We have a bylaw, snow removal bylaw. That's policy. We have a policy. It's not in there. And we have a bylaw and it's not in there. So if
Okay,
that's
so
the
that
case.
makes sense.
So there's nothing written that says that is so. It's,
There's also nothing written that says there isn't.
Which is why the courts rested on case law and issued a rule.
Mary?
I will say, snow removal, especially if you live in the town center, with what the plows
Push
end up
onto your-
pushing onto the sidewalk, it's almost impossible to shovel that.
I get angry when it happens on my street and they push it in front of my
Yeah,
driveway.
I mean,
I have to drive over
The
it
It's
entire,
so-
but
the
you
entire
see-
city of Boston uses this philosophy.
but what you see on Main
But
Street
I-
is people walking on the street to get to the library in the dead of night, and they're going in. So that it really is a safety issue.
Yeah. I mean,
And
there's a
I
lot of
agree with
snow.
that, and if you look at the towns around us, the towns do the plowing of the sidewalks. Maynard,
Clinton does.
Sudbury, Clinton, Lancaster, Stowe, I don't notice that they do it, but all the surrounding towns do it because they have a Bobcat.
On a Bobcat is a wonderfully versatile
And
machine.
they use snow.
I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, but do you just do Main Street? What about the other sidewalks in town?
Where else are sidewalks?
Fox Run,
Century Mill Estates.
Centuryville Estates.
The reason you couldn't.
Oh, yeah, and then you
It's a
have.
lot.
But
More cost.
There is a reason.
There is, we don't
Because
have.
then he comes back the next year saying, I don't have enough money for salary and wages.
So what I say to Brian is that $20,000 that he gave me for snow clearing wasn't enough.
You know, I think
It
some
just-
years ago, Harold did come before advisory asking for a Bobcat. And I think the discussion was, one, no. And two, I think in certain sections of Main Street, the Bobcat is gonna be too wide to navigate.
Oh, yeah, there's no
Right,
doubt.
right. And I mean, I've seen the DPW guys out there with snow blowers.
I have two.
So they are making an
Can't.
attempt. But I mean, you know, that's.
Well, they have to do the roads
That's
first.
at the end,
Sidewalks are
that's
the,
at the end of the line, but
Right.
after the roads
Plus
and
what
everything else
they're-
is done.
Mailboxes and DPW buckets, they're never gonna get by.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to hear more about if you have it is you said that maybe the Bobcat would impact the operational budget because it would be saving on labor costs, because right now, or maybe saving contract.
Well, it's gonna be hard to measure. I mean, that one effort we just talked about, sidewalks downtown, just the effort and futility of trying to plow, push through with a snow blower, get out there with, hand shovels and try to break through it. That just is effort and futility, just wasting man-hour after man-hour to try to accomplish something that may not be even effective. Where a Bobcat could break through it. And I'm not just saying, like you would plow a street, just continuously run down the sidewalk and get the whole thing. You may have to get up there with the skid steer, push it to the gutter, when you run it with the snow blower and blow it right back into the truck. So clear it from the sidewalk, clear the bank away, and then just take it
So
away.
you're talking about snow removal?
Snow removal, so when that's needed. So again, I think I was gonna make the point, and I think Brad stumbled upon it, and that is, where do you draw the line? What about other sidewalks in towns? No town that I know that does all the sidewalks, so then the debate becomes, so why these sidewalks only and not the others? Maybe that's a can of worms you don't want to open.
Given the history with the particular Main Street, I really don't, but, yeah, I mean, all the other reasons that you list, I completely understand the desire and the need for a Bobcat.
So if you look at request priority number 2 and priority number 3 with the vehicles, it's really one or the other. If we were to replace a plow sander, combo dump truck sander body, in 19, we wouldn't need to make another investment of $35,000 into, making major repairs to keep our older fleet on the road. There would be actually some residual trade-in value as well for what we do give up, though it's minuscule.
And that's the 193,000?
So if we were to get a new truck, we wouldn't need to spend $35,000, but if the town can't afford a new truck, we ought to be looking at spending another $35,000 to make some repairs to keep the fleet running.
And if we were to get the new one in 2019, what would happen to 2021 where you have another truck?
That's a different truck.
Okay,
That's
so
a different class of truck.
that doesn't get affected.
Yeah, so the 193, the 2019 request for $193,000, I gave it a range, that's about a 38,000 gross vehicle weight truck. Where the FY20 request is actually a 19,000, much smaller truck. That's a large pickup style dual rear end
Okay.
truck with a dumping sander on it.
That's 2021?
That's 20. And then
Oh, no, sorry, I'm talking about 2021, because those two vehicles did seem to be, they were the same.
they are, I'm sorry, they are the same. I think you're saying 20, I'm sorry. Yeah, they are exactly the same type of vehicle. We have a total of 6 Sanders, large truck Sanders, and the
What's the
newer,
newest one? I know we approved one not too long ago, right? Last year? Was it?
2000.
Yeah, but those, what we've been purchasing as of late have been the super cabs, like the Ford 550s or whatever they are.
exactly.
Right.
But this one, Joe, this 193 request, that's the big
Big.
sander.
So we have a total of 6 large dump trucks. The dump trucks, some of them are combination dump truck Sanders you can use year-round, which is what you would want to gravitate towards. You don't want to have just a seasonal truck that gets parked most of the year. So we have 6 of them, and the newest one, I believe, is like an 87.
And yeah, so that one, I think we bought 4 or 5 years ago and we got it used.
Used, okay.
from another municipality who gave it up.
Yeah,
Is it possible to get more definition around these $35,000 worth of repairs? That, what's the scope and nature of it? If we want to make a compelling case for a new truck, we have to almost show that we're throwing bad money, $35,000 of bad money at a truck. And it's going to be obvious to, an ordinary
Tim makes
person
a,
that
Tim
that's
makes a
not
great
good.
point. Every one of us in the course of our lives have probably been faced with, do I really want to put $8,000 into this piece of junk car I've been driving? As much as I can't afford a new one, I really can't afford to make the repair. $35,000 to hold together a 20-year-old truck. is a
But we don't
waste of
know
money.
kind of what the 35,000 is for. And
It's a number that Harold just had. It was a number out of thin air,
I
and
call
trust
it
me,
a legacy number here.
Well,
it doesn't go far.
right, and we used it for plow sander repair.
But
That
if-
last year, that's what was put in the article
But if
as.
somebody knowledgeable about trucks were to inspect this and start writing down, this is deficient, there'd be a scope of work. And I'm just wondering kind of what's the nature of that scope of work? Are we repairing the frame or what? Is it just tires and
Yeah,
some definition around
You- you-
$35,000?
No, I understand
See, it's
exactly.
either or.
No, I
We have-
understand exactly what you're
And
asking.
I realize you don't, it doesn't.
no, but Ted, I think it's similar to what Stan mentioned last night when the fire was here, right? Like you're asking for a $275,000 brush truck. You need to demonstrate what the need, what is not getting, right? And to me, I mean, you tell me if I'm off base, Joe, but to me, it's like line up the fleet, his present fleet, the other 6 big Sanders, age, category, bills,
I'm not,
and then from there go, here's what we
I'm
have.
accepting that the 1984 truck is the oldest and it is the truck that is the subject truck. That's the guy that we're either gonna trade or get rid of and get
Yeah.
rid of, or we're gonna spend $35,000 on it. And I'm just saying, what's the scope and nature of this $35,000?
And Ted, it's a valid
Because
question.
if the town
And how long
votes
would
for
it
the
give you for the truck?
35,000, you're gonna have to spend it on it. You gotta know what you're gonna spend it on.
Yeah, and
It may
every
be
year
too
you
little,
have to
too
put more
much.
money into
So
that.
Ted used the
truck.
phrase legacy number. What I take that to mean is, that's a number that's been thought about from Harold and was put on this request, and I carried it forward again this year. I just
Yeah.
asked for it.
Yeah,
The reality is, it's a sick patient who you put on the operating table for exploratory surgery, and you don't know what you've got until you open them up.
so
The
like
truck is-
maybe,
The truck is run.
so what, maybe another way of asking this?
No, it may have broken frame, it may have, but when you take the
Yeah,
broken frame out, you
maybe,
find out all the motor mounts are gone.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And once you get into that, you find out all the hoses and all the brake
Right.
tubing, brake lines are gone, and what may have started out as you thought it might be worth 15, it could easily be worth 40.
Scab.
And, I'm gathering numbers out of thin air, but that's how it happens with all vehicles.
No kidding.
Well, it was just last year, or it might have been the year before, Leslie, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but we approved 50 or 55,000 specifically for repairs.
No, 35,000
35 last year.
last year.
All right, I want to say it's 55 the year before, maybe not. I mean,
I don't
it was
think we
like,
had
the minute we
repairs.
gave it to you, it was gone.
No, yeah,
Like,
I
so-
mean, this is when we
Yeah,
added that other 1,200 into my repair budget or something. I know it's not
I
a big deal,
remember
but it's,
Harold always saying that 35 is, when he spends it, but then he robs other pieces of
right,
equipment.
I mean.
And it would be way more
it's a lot, yeah,
expensive
yeah.
than
Going
35 if he
forward,
wasn't.
My question
It's
being
kind
is
of it's just kind of
because Joe and his staff are collecting invoices, and the invoices are being filed per vehicle by VIN number. So, I mean, in the future, we're
Moving
going to,
forward, we're doing
I don't
yeah.
know, we're going to be able to answer that question.
Hmm.
At least historically, in the rearview mirror, I'm saying, going forward, what's the 35,000 for?
Well, it's just,
kind of
don't know.
almost like those surprises. You just
I mean, otherwise, 35 is less than 100.
We've come full circle in the conversation. I think I prefaced my comments by saying I approached my vehicle capital plan by looking at the entire fleet from a life cycle perspective. This is all of my equipment mapped out. This is its age. This is its projected useful life. This is its effective remaining life. and this is the replacement value, and use that as a forecasting tool, which would help us answer the question of how frequently do we want to rotate these 6 trucks out? And the reality is if you limped along and gave yourself 4 years, every 4 years you're buying 1 truck, but you limp yourself along to get you through those first 16 years to get yourself back to the beginning of the cycle, then it puts you on a nice, even sequence of moving these major trucks on a regular basis. You still got some residual value to them, you still have some use to them, and when the times get lean, losing a year or 2 isn't like losing a year or 2 on a 20-year-old truck. So,
Yeah, I think while it's good to have the detail, I mean, we're talking about what is it, 84, 87? So I mean, we're talking about a truck that's 30 years old, okay? So regardless of what you're repairing, it's not gonna be, we're gonna replace tires. I mean, it's a lot more than that. So you've gotta weigh, yeah, I mean, 35,000 is less than 193, but you spend the 35,000.
And it gives you just a year.
They do a couple of plow jobs and something else breaks where the truck's no longer repairable at all. Now you've completely wasted 35K. So when you're getting up to the 30-year mark, regardless of what it is, if you're spending a lot of money, and to your point, Brad, and I go through this, we've kept our son's car, because he's working in New York, and like 1 month this one, and then another month that one, and you get to the point where you're thinking about, well, do you want to keep the thing or just
No, you
get
spend all
rid of
that
it?
money on it.
And you get to the point where, oh, well, I just spent this, so we got to spend some more. It's this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, to get on a plan where over some number of years, we get to a point where we potentially have upgraded things reasonably so that and we've deliberately not bought new stuff. And we've deliberately extended the life of it because of other budget issues.
Exactly, and in concert with, we felt it was, from a town's perspective, right? We felt it was fair to the new person coming in, like specifically on these big trucks, the question of what do we do moving forward? Do we maintain, or as people age and retire, do we move to a contractor schedule, and therefore why go blow? So we did purposely, we did not want to move down a track of thinking of that philosophy, and then putting that philosophy onto the new guy coming in going, well, this is the decision we made.
But
Yeah.
isn't now this is the time for that assessment? I mean,
No, exactly. I mean, that's,
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I'm assuming, and whatever Joe's thinking on that philosophy,
so
maintain employees or look to contract out down the road. I
I
don't
don't
know.
so much as apologize as often the excuse that I wish I had more time to look at this as a full fleet and give that life cycle, because again, it's a great planning tool. And again, I understand limitations. I'm understanding that 193 may not be in the cards this year, but I think that the town as a whole and those people who make decisions need to understand what that horizon looks like. And is it looming large? And is it scary? And if there is, we better prepare as we approach it to understand what our strategy is.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that because I programmed it out for 4 years, it has to happen in 4 years. No, it's just a tool.
No. I mean, right off the where I'm thinking, assuming the budget supports it, I'm inclined, knowing the specific condition of the Sander fleet, I'm inclined right out of the gates to say yes, to buy you the time, at least putting one newer vehicle into your fleet, so that you and your guys have the time, and you specifically think, hey, you know what, I've got these number of employees at this age, and upon retirement, to me it makes sense to just go to a contract on the plot. I don't know what the answer is, but that's
So
what I
Harold,
figured.
Harold was really, really good with understanding snow operations when it comes to how do you cover it. We have 6 trucks, like I told you, 6 large trucks. We have 4 folks with CDL license who can run those trucks. So right off the bat, I have 2 contract employees, seasonal employees, who make my lowest wage, who I call in for sanding operations. That's when you need the rapid response time. You can't rely on a contractor to come in. You need to have your equipment. We run all 6 trucks. We don't, if one breaks down, we don't have a standby truck. The truth is, we don't have garage space for a 7th truck, so that's off the table. We don't even, I can't be asking for a truck and then build a garage, that's not the case. So we're well equipped with 6 trucks. We have 6 trucks and I roll them on a sanding treatment to do a town-wide sanding treatment. I'm looking at 3.5, 4 hours of sanding. That's an efficient response time from the time you roll and you get all 6 out and complete the operation. So I think 6 is the right number. So I think it's the right number.
No, I think
Tomorrow night.
probably should be sleeping.
My guys are. We already have a plan for tomorrow morning. I know what time I'm rolling. It's Friday morning is when I'm gonna be a mess. So I think, we've given it a lot of thought. I think they've got the good setup. Now, when we go out to plow, those are all of those 6 trucks plus all of my smaller trucks.
Yeah.
And we still have 6 contractors, which represent probably a total of like 18 pieces of equipment who cover the entire town. When it's snowing, like tomorrow, 2 inches an hour, and it takes me 3 hours to cycle through a route, theoretically, by the time I get back to the beginning of the route, I got 6 inches of snow on the road. So in the worst storm, you can't keep up, but in the average storm, you can. So I think we've got good coverage, and I think the equipment to support that is well thought out. It's just a matter of forecasting when might that appear on the horizon. That's what we're looking to do for you folks.
So as I'm looking at your capital expenditure summary, and you had the plow dump sander as 3rd priority, but the skid steer loader as 1st priority, which one makes more sense? Still the skid steer loader? After I just heard.
So skid steer loader is an omission. At least the other trucks, as old as they are, they still have some function to them. Skid steer loader is something we simply don't have, and it could improve doing things.
But it
It's
can't
also
do
a
with the
smaller.
pump.
It's also a smaller number. If
It can plow, but it can't
Well,
much.
but a skid
way
steer
of a
loader
car.
is nothing like
it's
a
a
6-wheel.
Right, so that's why I'm saying after hearing this and wanting to start the cycle of putting in what you need now, and hopefully every 4 years or so, replace what you have, those 6. Would it be best to do that now, request that, than the other, since you've been doing without it anyway?
You mean the truck versus the skid steer?
Yeah.
If I could be so bold to say that 193 might be available, I would absolutely move that to the higher priority. I know it's a big number, might be an alarming number.
Well, it's coming sooner or later, right? I mean, you can't keep throwing, I would rather do something other than $35,000 a year on repairs.
And I just made a note, because I think it's important for all of us to keep track of it, on this capital project, detail sheet. I mean, if we approve the truck for 193, then the 35,000 goes away.
Right.
We need to keep, so I just made a note of that. All right, so, and Joe, again, we've got a capital planning group. I mean, they're a little light on people, so, they don't yet have a quorum. My expectation is they, at some point, will, so they'll probably put you through the ringer as well on these capital items to what we have.
Just one quick question. So you said the 35,000 went away. Is that 35,000 tagged to that oldest truck, or would you still need repair money for other trucks?
He still has a repair line, right? Other than
And that's
that.
sufficient,
That-
okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
that's
I
correct.
just want to clarify.
Yeah.
The goal would be to take the oldest truck in the
Yeah.
worst condition, not necessarily the oldest, but the one in the worst condition, and refurbish
Okay.
it to the extent of 35,000.
I didn't quite understand it was either or.
Yeah.
But if we were to replace that worst condition truck with a new truck, then we wouldn't need to spend it on any other trucks.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I'm just trying to keep, we talked a little bit about the skid steer, we talked about the plow sander. We know the truck repairs for 35 would go away. So what I have left, Joe, if you could touch base on the water supply compliance upgrades, 90,500. We've got sewer treatment for 80. There's engineering of South Bolton Spectacle Hill for 43.7, and then Long Hill West Pond Culvert for 250.
You want to take them in the order that you read them, or in the order?
Your call. I just
So let's talk about the replace the failed culvert at Long Hill Road at West Pond.
Yeah.
So that culvert had already collapsed. They put a temporary repair pipe in just to maintain flow as best they can. Engineering is ongoing on that. We will have bid documents in place and probably open before town meeting. The estimated cost to replace that culvert is $250. We will have a better number once the bids are open. It might be lower. Chances are it will be lower because of at this point, contingency planning estimates are typically about 20% higher than what the bids might typically run.
Okay.
So, but that's what the forecast is for that. There's a second request there, and that's to look at engineering, from an engineering perspective, an ongoing problem with, I'm going to say, not so much flooding as it is drainage problems that result in roadway flooding down at that intersection of South Bolton and Spectacle Hill. The reality is there's a whole bunch of things that come into play there. 43.7 is an actual proposal. I brought a couple engineers out and looked at the area and asked them what would it take to get a better assessment of what the problem is out here. So that's a real number from a consultant. What I see at play out there is, the road is accumulating water, but the water that used to flow off of that roadway, off the side of the roadway into ditches and find its way down a little pond that's down in the back of South Bolton Road, across private property, those ditches, first of all, the roadway shoulders accumulated with sand and silt over decades. So the people have come to grow accustomed to not having that water on their yard or in that old brook. They've turned that old brook into their compost area, so they've, in essence, they've defeated the ability for the drainage to get off the roadway. Issue one being the shoulder, issue two is defeating of the flow. Issue three is, we have a subdivision that's out there that's still under construction, and though the drainage is analyzed to collect and to get into catch basins and go to areas, all of those stormwater improvements haven't been constructed yet. For example, the catch basin frames are up, so the water that flows down the street doesn't get into them except under the most severe rains. So you even have some private impact affecting the runoff into this intersection. So, the goal is to be able to work with the planning board, verify to what extent the developer is responsible for causing that and repairing it. What?
That should
Have
be
you heard this before?
No, I'm just thinking of the developer. That should be interesting.
And if there is no responsibility, then what's the town's ability to go in and cure it? Even with the design, there's going to be a need to deal with 3 private landowners where the water used to flow down brooks, that it no longer does, and convince them that that's where the water always went. And we may end up having to, depending on that answer, not so much take legal action, but maybe flex our muscles and say, look, that's where the water naturally went, that's where it does go, by right. This number helps us understand that better before you go over it. And the reality is in severe rain, you do in fact get 6 inches of water on that roadway. And it goes away. 2 or 3, 4 days later.
You remember this past spring, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the year before it was fine, we had a drought, but then and the year before that was on the capital planning, but it was pushed.
No, exactly, because something else
Was more important, and then lo and behold, this year we have kids getting off the bus up to here in water, so it's.
I understand.
The important thing is, this is an engineering number only, so if in fact there is a municipal obligation to deal with it in the roadway and stop building catch basins and piping and manhole and have an outlet somewhere, the number is going to be, to actually build something is going to be a lot greater than that.
I mean, this actually got on a warrant, and it was yanked off a few years ago. You know, for a year ago or 2 years ago. Because of some other budget issue, but also because of the fact that the construction of that subdivision isn't done yet. So why would you go up and do everything and then still have all those trucks go through? I think, you know, once they build the other road coming out on Century Mill, you know, then you force the developer to go in that way and not go in through Spectacle Hill. Then you gotta, it's probably a better shot to do the work, you know.
So in the short term, for no money, we're gonna work with the planning director, who's gonna work with the planning board to get a better understanding of what is this interim construction progress? You know, where are they?
Yeah.
And what have they connected and what have they not connected with their drainage system? Because if it's simply telling them to, you know, put all your catch basins down at the right height, collect the water and move it into your detention pond that you have not yet built yet, then do that, and maybe this problem goes away.
Yeah. Yep. And just to go, I just want to make sure I didn't miss something. The 250 culvert on Long Hill Road, West Pond, that number does include engineering?
Engineering has already been funded and is ongoing. Yeah, we're
That's
doing
right.
that.
We did.
Chapter 90
money
money.
we paid for the engineering.
Okay. All right. And before knowing you were even coming into town, I was doing my best to get a listing. Leslie just didn't want to listen to me.
She's all,
I'm kidding.
I know. Ask Joe.
she broke her chair today.
Yeah, I needed a chair. The wheel fell off my chair, so I'm like, yeah.
So that's why we don't have a culvert list?
That's why we don't have a culvert list, okay?
So-
No, I actually do have, it's just, I don't have a lot of information.
I know, and this is what I was
And
trying to...
I
you know,
apologize, but
No.
I've got a lot of day-to-day activities I have to take
Listen,
care
I
of.
was just trying to get the data from the guy that was in his head before the guy left.
Well, I got,
So I got the 6 hour, let's drive around town as fast as we can, and he really showed me an awful lot of stuff, but it was like a whirlwind. What I learned is after Harold took me on the tour, which was tremendous, Nate took me on the same tour. And Nate, you know Nate? Barry?
I've heard the name.
faster.
But Nate is a wealth of information. He knows where all this infrastructure is, so Nate is my asset to at least get me in the right direction. I know where the major culverts are, and I know which ones have been repaired, and I know which ones are vulnerable. What I don't have is the total, because honestly, they're all all the older ones are all corrugated metal with a spring line that fluctuates. That's the flow line that moves up and down. With corrugated metal, you get corrosion in there. And once the corrosion lets go and the culvert starts to collapse on itself, it ends up being catastrophic. They're all of the same era. So,
Yeah.
you know, the question is what's the vulnerability and how frequently these are going to happen in the future?
So, Joe, is it fair to say that once you get a little bit more settled in, the town will be able to see like a collective list of culverts? Like, kind of, here's the total, like, here's what we've done, like, here's...
So I glossed over it real fast. When I talk about my capital plan, when I look at my roadway infrastructure, I will be looking at roadway pavement surfaces, sidewalks, curbing, signs, pedestrian handicap ramps and whatnot, and signals, and guardrail. And since we don't have a formal stormwater system, all those culverts and stormwater things are pertinent to the roadway. They are part of the roadway capital. So they'll all be in one inventory.
Yeah.
And that's my approach on that. And then from a life cycle basis, tempered by what we get out of Chapter 90 money, I will be able to forecast what we ought to be spending on a recurring basis to keep our roads and all of our roadway infrastructure up to par. And, you know, that'll be looking at a 20-year horizon going down the road.
So to speak.
So to speak.
All right. Good. All right. So we talked about the culvert. We talked about engineering. Let's see here. What's your pleasure next?
So there's nothing in 19 for the buildings. Those are all out-year requests. The other request, which is that last thing that didn't quite fit the others, there are really two things. One's water and one's storage. The water one we touched on ever so briefly. when we talked about monitoring wells.
Yep.
So we have the landowner of the property where the pizza shop is at Main Street 117 and Walbush Road. It has, I'm not gonna say in order, they have a sanitary survey that was completed that directs them to carry out various maintenance and repairs to their system. Because of some convoluted thought that because of the contamination associated with our diesel tanks causing impacts to the well, that we own their water facility forevermore. And I scratch my head when I read the sanitary survey from DEP instructing the owner to make these repairs. And you've got an elevated level of manganese in your well, a naturally occurring element, just like arsenic, just like radon, in your well, and you must treat for it. And if you look at that element, and then you look at the other piece of the sanitary survey that says you've got a bacteria problem in that well that also serves your apartment building and your restaurant there.
Yeah, I know.
That you need to make some repairs for water quality, raise the wellhead up, and put a charcoal filter, biological treatment area on the front end of that before you get the water into. Collectively, that's a $90,000 undertaking. So I scratch my head and say, so why do we think this is ours? And that's what started this whole process of me digging in and finding out where we're at. So I go back to a request to be released, not released, I shouldn't say that. We filed the town in Arkansas, that filed a request to close out the remediation plan. We have done everything we needed to do and then some. In fact, we've gone years beyond that, resulting in the DEP in 2013 saying, well, we want to audit that, where you are in the process, and we'll evaluate it. So in February of 14, January of 14, they came out and they did an inspection and found that most everything that they were asking for was in fact in place and was agreeable, and the audit from that perspective was accurate. They said, as part of that audit, well, we ought to take some samples in not just the pizza shop and that one well, but the other properties who were involved earlier on, because if we're going to close it out, we want to look at everybody. And they obtained samples from all of those and sent them out for analysis. The result of that was a summary audit report written by the section chief of hazardous waste for the route, which concluded, through the whole chronology of the event, concluded that no significant risk exists and that the drinking water meets drinking water standards. Conclusion reached in 2014. Each of the private well owners, the pizza shop, the real estate broker, the engineering firm where the post office is, and the liquor store, all got letters from DEP that says exactly the same thing. So those owners were all put on notice in 2014 that says, everything looks good to us. Nobody has taken that next step to say, therefore Milton is no longer responsible, which is what we're working on.
It's all right.
I still do that. My wife calls it molten.
It was impressive. I mean, we went 2 hours, like,
Through this though.
what's that?
We went
So
through this last year.
what I'm saying is, because we're in that position of challenging that, and we're dealing with council, and we're dealing with DEP, our hope is that they're going to see it our way, that we are in fact released from this thing. And we said, we tell the property owner of the pizza shop that order that you got, what are you going to do about it? Because we're out of the picture. And that request goes away. If DEP for some reason says, well, you're still obligated, hate to say it, that's an order. That's something that has to be done.
We were told that we had to do it almost in perpetuity.
Well, yeah, which I didn't know was which was something different than this number.
And this, well,
Yeah.
it was different.
No, you're right. It was the monitoring.
If you're doing monthly
Right,
testing and
Yes.
that's something, that's that $6,000, that's
Yeah.
I
minor.
think that's the landfill monitor
That's the landfill?
Yeah.
Okay.
that Chris
But-
was talking about.
Exactly. That's what I was.
Okay.
But it also came up from there. The monitoring of the town common.
Right.
I don't want to give false optimism. We've had very good conversations with DEP. We've had good conversations with town council. I read the entire record from 1997 forward. I think we're on solid ground. But if we're not, I want a holding place to be identified. That's a $90,500 undertaking.
Yeah.
Should the town be obligated to do it?
Yep. And so, worst case scenario, I think I heard you say you might know the answer before the warrant, but worst case scenario, the warrant gets printed with that in it.
We can pull it
and
off the
on town
table.
floor,
Right.
we pull it.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any opposition to saving $90,000.
No, I completely agree. I just wanted to make sure I was.
Yeah. When does the warrant go to print?
March
March.
31st.
End of March? We will almost certainly have our books of it before then.
Even if it gets approved at town meeting, you don't have to spend it, right? I mean, even if
No.
you still, for whatever reason, it takes longer and it gets approved and then you finally get a
No,
decision.
yeah, I mean,
then
it's
we
just
can-
one of those things where like if we,
Right,
when we're getting down, if it's still there, and then
Right.
we're like, well, as opposed to free cash, we're gonna look to bond it, right?
yeah.
Maybe that's one that we don't look at
Yes.
bonding, right?
I would say free cash, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, if it gets approved at town meeting, and you, even if you don't go to bond it, you have to go back and rescind the vote at town. at
Only if
future
it's a
town meeting.
borrowing.
If it's a borrow, because it affects your
Right.
bond capacity.
So we would do free cash, I think,
Yeah.
for that.
That's
That way
why,
it's-
yeah. So that's all I was just trying to get a sense of where you were on that.
Yeah, so we're hoping, I think we're going in the right direction to get the right answer.
All right.
The last one, I'm trying to flip to the detail sheet because it's better than the spreadsheet. Storage treatment plant, so, because I don't want to get the numbers or the sequence incorrect. So two years ago, so we have a storage treatment plant in the field behind the Florence Art School, right? You know where that is?
Yep.
And it serves the schools, two schools, town hall, the public safety building, and the Houghton building. They all pump to, in the library, they all pump to a common system and get out there and get treated. As that, 2 years ago, DEP recommended that the town should put a capital reserve fund in place, that's the term they used, to basically cover the cost of what's inevitably going to be the replacement of these membranes when they get old and they fail, or when they simply need to be replaced.
Exactly.
And to do that on a sequential basis. At that time, 2 years ago, it was a $168,000 estimate for those membrane replacements in total. And it was at the same time, at that point, the system was already 8 years old, it was only 2 years left in the life. So $88,924 was approved in December 16th special town meeting, if you guys remember that. So it ostensibly took what was $160,000 and reduced it by that $88,000. So there's really only about another $80,000 needed to be spent in a future year. So out of that $88,924, they in fact replaced half of the membranes already, but there's still $19,724 balance left in there. So we're asking for an additional $61,000 to carry out the second phase of membrane replacement.
So not the
Not
full
the
80.
Not the full 80.
61.
Well, but you want to put the full 80 on there because
Right.
you,
Because it's 89, it's more than
right,
80,000.
how we pay for it is different,
Oh.
right? That's the cost.
Well,
And
I recall.
wasn't it this past May though, too, Stan? I thought we had set aside some money this past May.
Capital stabilization fund for 70,000.
Right, that's right. With knowing that collectively, the entire system is gonna have to get replaced.
Right, but we already established the fund already.
Is the fund created, or is there funds in that fund?
There's 70,000.
There's 70,000 seed money put in it?
Yeah. We already created this capital reserve fund, and my understanding is that we were
We were gonna continue.
but not the second half. We were gonna do it over a period of time because we had to replace some,
Which they've done?
which we've done, but it wasn't aware at the time that we need to replace the other ones now. It was when they needed to be done, but we needed to build up this reserve.
But
Yeah.
if there's $70,000 in there already, it may be just $10,000 shy of to replace the balance.
But I think they want, so isn't this a continual?
It's a continual
Yeah.
thing. We're not, it's not just to do it's to keep going.
Right.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
keep adding to this over time.
Okay.
So whether the number's 70,000 or 80,000, I think we all have to figure out what that number is, but we were treating this similar to OPEB, of
Right.
consistently
Right.
once a
Putting in a
year,
little bit of money.
putting some money aside, knowing that at some point the marker's gonna get called on $1 million+ and we're never gonna get at dumping
So
seven.
beyond just the membranes, all the other components of the soil plant? you mean?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
knowing that
Yeah, I think this was just right, because we knew
dumping
this was an
70,000 a
ongoing.
year in, we're not gonna get to the million before the million marker gets called in, but it'll help a little
So,
bit.
so my work on this was based on, a carryover request that Harold had,
Yeah,
recognizing that we had already spent some money on it, so my math was pretty straightforward, verified what had been spent, through Nanachka. So without looking at tapping into that reserve fund at all, it was just to replace those remaining
yeah.
second half of the membranes that are about to go.
Do we have a list of upcoming repairs for the wastewater treatment facility? Because that might give us an idea.
I believe, I've definitely seen the membrane forecast. I can speak with Whitewater tomorrow. I believe they have a forecast of deferred maintenance, deferred capital reserves
Right.
over the years.
I'll have to pull out my notes from
Yeah,
last
see,
year.
now, actually,
too.
now that I'm thinking, we would need to get the warrant out, but I'm not
I
sure
know,
if
that's what I
it
was-
was just the one, or whether we actually
I have
appropriated the
warrant in
money
my office.
to do, to
Is it in
replace the
2016?
membranes.
No, it would have been last
no.
year.
It was special town meeting
And-
of 16.
No, I don't think it was a special, I think it was the annual. That we paid, we had an article do that work, and then we had another article to do, to create the fund.
Yeah, so I think Joe's right. I think the article to
It's-
do the work was the special in 16.
Okay,
There was-
and then we had an annual, the annual,
The
Exactly.
stabilization fund for 70,000?
Yes.
Yes.
That was last year,
Yes.
in May.
Yeah.
in May,
Okay,
yes.
so at the special, we authorized the money to get the membranes done, and that
Yeah.
one is the new ongoing fund.
So the fact of the matter is, what Joe is saying here for 80 or 63, I mean, the bottom line is, he needs 80 to fix the other half of the membranes, but what we should also have is as an additional article that says, we want to add to the reserve fund.
Yeah.
So this
Right.
was right, to create a wastewater treatment facility
Right.
fund for the purpose of funding major repairs to the wastewater treatment
What
facility.
article numbers?
20.
28.
But my understanding was it wasn't gonna be 70 or 80 grand each time, it was gonna be some lower number.
Yes, yeah, I think that was initial seed money.
Yeah, it was like 10 grand or something
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
that.
whatever, yeah.
Each year, because this
No.
is 2016, this was
You need to fund it
2017.
and do,
So I guess we should talk about.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't,
I have
we
homework
should
to
use
do on
some
that.
of
What
this
I
money to pay
want to
for
look
it?
at is I know the membranes that they're useful life, half of which have already been replaced, the other half that will need to be replaced. That total is a $168,000 effort. So that
Just the
next
membranes.
step is looming. There
yes.
still is a recurring
Alright.
investment that needs to be made in the
Right.
capital fund each year to forecast or to be able to cover those future expenses. in
You
future
might wanna
years.
check with Don, cause I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And I think whatever number, I think it's probably you guys just getting an article written for the, whatever number comes up in terms of setting money aside for the stabilization fund for this thing, right? It wouldn't necessarily be Joe having to put it,
no.
Yeah. I mean, because I think this number is legit, and it makes sense for Joe to have requested it, because these are repairs.
But do they have to be done? That was
Yeah.
the question, that whether or not the other, if you
Half.
replace half, did the other half need to be replaced right
Right.
after this?
Yeah.
That I don't recall. But if they do, they do. You know, it's-
Yeah, I mean, all I know is we went a whole mess of years without anything going on,
Well, yeah.
and then,
Yeah, membranes have 10-year life. They went 8 years. You replaced half of them in that 8th year,
yeah.
and you're in the 9th year now of the remaining.
Well,
Yeah, and-
some of
So
this
they
is
have
the
2 years
genesis
to
of
go
the fact
theoretically.
that sewage treatment plant was built initially for Florence Sawyer. Because when they had to redo the filtration, I remember years ago, because I was on the planning board then, they were looking at sand filters and the whole bit, and the price kept creeping up and creeping up and creeping up, and then we said, well, let's just stop, let's try something else. So the sewage treatment plant was built specifically for the school, and it was built to have more capacity than it needed for whatever. Later on, we tapped into the sewage treatment plant for the library and the public safety building.
But those are minimal loads.
Exactly.
As compared to the school.
But the other thing was,
No pun intended.
the agreement was.
I didn't go there.
Yeah, the agreement was is that the district was gonna maintain that sewage treatment plant, and they did not.
Right.
And we're in the mess that we're in because the previous regime neglected to live
Yeah.
up to their obligations.
But we're also in a mess in the sense that 10 years ago, the minute we, put the thing in the ground, we also didn't, the very next year, start setting some money aside.
Well, right,
For-
we should have, and the reason we're doing this is because if this were a private deal, DEP would have required this.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're just taking the step to right the wrongs.
All right. So, Joe, the takeaway is you're gonna do a little more homework on this.
I
and
think you
follow up
need
with
more
Dawn.
homework done by me to help you better understand that, what that recurring number is beyond the membrane request.
Brad, let's say we need the membranes. Are we in agreement we're going to take the residual dollars from our previous project and apply that and then just seek the delta, the 80,000, or are we going to return the residual to Ninochka and then have the project be full amount? I think it's a principle that with here, it's probably shades and maybe makes sense maybe either way.
Meaning the
But we
capital
were-
request is for 80
80
grand.
and
Joe
61.
comes in and does it for 60.
No. His request is for 80, but the real cost is 96, is it, or 90?
No.
No, it's 80.
No, it's 80.
It's
No,
80.
But you had,
You were
what was the
taking credit-
61 you
Wasn't
were
there
talking about?
19?
Or
Because you
okay.
had 19 left over.
Okay.
2,500
Right.
left over.
So you're gonna put the 19 into
Okay,
the
the
second part.
real cost is 80,
Is 80.
and that's what we got, okay, maybe we're okay. We're gonna seek the 80.
Well,
And then like we'll write
Actually-
the article, 19,000 blah, 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 to be transferred from article blah,
From
blah,
you
blah.
to,
but that makes it 61, right? Not-
Right, the net will be 60 something. So I don't know if, we have to think, is it coming out of that
I guess my-
stabilization fund? Is
question is,
it
do
too much to come out of
residuals-
there? Do you want a portion to come out of there?
In my opinion, at the 16 special town meeting, we set aside whatever amount of money, 100 grand, to get repairs done immediately.
70.
And last May, we set aside 70
Oh,
as a stabilization, right? So to me,
I see.
there's two things going on here. There's costs to keep the thing going,
Right.
fixes, and then there's setting money aside for ultimately a new system. So
Okay.
if I
So
understood
there
you
should be
correctly,
something
I can
separate.
reframe, I think I
So,
can be more
I
clear.
would take this $80,000 request by Joe, and if he comes in and says, "Oh, I could fix these other membranes for 60,"
Right.
I would personally like the article to be written that any delta gets pushed to the stabilization
For
for
that project.
I have
for
a question.
this project. So that's me.
The nub of the question is, if a project underruns, does the amount of the underrun go back to the house?
It always does. It goes to free
or
cash.
does
Or
it-
should go
No, it has to be repurposed.
stabilization.
or
No,
does
it has to
get
be repurposed.
Repurposed.
Unless we go to town meeting and have it
Rescind.
put back into the general fund. It's been easier for us not to add 7 more articles, just because sometimes we'll have $12 left. 35, you've
Yeah.
seen all those
Right.
articles that have 14.
Oh yeah, that's when you and I
Instead of
scrub
having
and we
14
apply
articles,
exactly.
Sending them back to the general fund, have one article that pays for a portion of a new
Yes.
purpose.
So
Unless it's a
the
borrowing in there.
19 The first part of this that's been done cost how much, actually? The cost? It was 100 and something put aside for it,
It was
right?
88,924 was appropriated at the
Appropriate.
December 16th special town meeting.
And how much did
Of
it
which,
cost?
my math in my head is not good, but we have a remaining 724.
Right.
So call it 20,000, so it cost us 68,000, 68,900.
So why are we asking for 80 instead of 68? I know you made that point. Why would we?
Well, the total cost is 80. I mean, it's,
Right.
we've already got 19,000 kind of in the bank over here.
Right, so the cost is 80.
We need to
and-
ask
and you're
for
gonna-
60
You're
something.
gonna ask to take 19 from that old article.
Right.
Yep.
And
apply it.
60 from free cash
60
or
from
wherever
free
we
cash.
decide.
Okay.
But let me introduce another wrinkle into this.
Please do.
Is-
Thanks, Dan.
My pleasure. You know, the district was supposed to be responsible for this. And I don't know what discussions we've had since then of what future obligation the district has on this. And, you know, maybe we can get them to pony up a few
Yeah,
bucks on this. So I think we should, the work's gotta be done, but let's see if we can, let's see what we can,
Yeah, no, I mean,
done in terms of what the new regime of the district, you know.
yeah, I mean, to me, that ship has said, it should have never got off the dock, quite frankly.
Right.
It was our building, it should have been our nut from the get-go, and we sure as hell should have never let them make the decisions on maintaining it. I own a 3-family, I'm gonna have the rental person take care of my septic? Not a
Right,
chance in hell.
Exactly.
That's what we did. I mean, to me, that's our nut to
We-
swallow.
Well,
But I hear what you're saying.
We have to sort out, because the majority use of that is the schools.
Yeah. I know, but it's our building.
I understand it's our building.
Yeah. All right.
So for my effort, I'm looking at the Whitewater forecast of what recurring future obligations are.
Yeah.
The membranes I got a good handle on, so I can report both back to you. The second part of that Whitewater question helps you identify, so what might the town add to that stabilization fund this year, if any?
Exactly.
And the separate article stands on its own. And then the question of school district responsibility, I don't know if I'm talking that fight. That's a discussion between school committee and board of selectmen, or Dawn and the superintendent initially, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but ultimately, you know, we may hold in the bag, so you probably need to get involved anyway.
Make sure we can provide guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's sort it out, because I'm not sure where that whole discussion went.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
once we discovered that, you know,
Yeah, we just went to special town meeting and said, we're gonna,
right.
yeah.
It was imminent.
No, I hear you. Yeah, Joe, that'd be very helpful, because I think, I mean, our philosophy has been where we have the opportunity with excess cash to add to stable, like last year, we added some money to the stabilization, the town stabilization fund. I would think we would probably treat this same thing philosophically. To Stan's point, he's right. I mean, last May, we seeded this thing with 70 grand. Who knows what the number will be this year?
And I don't even know what the basis of that number was, whether it was available funds or whether it was
Yeah, it was-
truly you needed, you know. So I didn't get that answer, because I'm sure Whitewater has provided that document, says that they're the operator of the plant. They must know what that is,
All right.
so I'll get that for you.
So to that end, I feel as though we've covered all the capital items as well. Did I miss anything?
I have a snow number for you,
All right.
if you want it. So the average of the last 13 years has been 345,000.
What's the standard deviation if you rule,
I don't know.
if you rule out?
You had to ask, you know, you had to ask.
3 out of those 13 years were under 200,000. So that's almost a quarter were under 200,000. So
Ever under 180?
once.
When was that?
Could I
Is that
continue?
2007.
Yeah, that was the rainy,
That was the very warm year.
the warm rainy.
So say that again, Natasha. The
I mean, I'll
13-year
put this in a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I'm chicken scratch right now.
13-year average is 350. Jeez.
345.
345.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
I would never recommend you increase your snow and ice to that.
No, but I mean.
200 maybe.
Yeah. Let's
Baby
Start
let's
small.
continue
Maybe,
to
yeah.
dig into this and see. Wow. All right. Any other questions from advisor? Joe, do you have any questions for us?
No, it's great to deal with you folks. You ask all the right questions for the right reasons. I think you mentioned earlier, go through the ringer. You ask legitimate questions, but you need me to give you answers on that.
Told you it wasn't so
That's
bad.
not going through the ringer.
Just give him time.
Yeah.
We're just easing
He's
Joe.
on the
into
hunt,
this
Yeah.
process. This is the cream puff year for
I was
us.
gonna say,
Wait till next year when you have a year under your belt.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, good pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Good luck tomorrow.
Good evening.
Oh, that's right.
Thank
Nice to
you.
meet you. Okay, good
Joe,
job.
good to see you again.
We'll be seeing you.
All right, so I had, if you guys take a look at the agenda for next Tuesday and Wednesday, my last conversation with Linda, it looks as though she has to jockey some of those days around. I was really, I purposely, as you guys know, we were doing this from the highest budget drivers going down. And Tuesday nights, knowing that we have a new treasurer, a new MIS guy, I specifically put those folks with Dawn so that Dawn would be in the crowd to assist with those people going through their budgets. Linda said she's got to make some adjustments, so she's working on. The bottom line is we'll see who we see next Tuesday and Wednesday, but
It may be a different,
it's going to be a different batting order.
okay.
And then the other thing is, earlier in the day, you guys received a spreadsheet from Brian. You got one from me. I apologize. The one that I sent out, I asked to be sent out to you guys weeks ago. It may have. I haven't seen it, but you now have it, and that is my spreadsheet. I think it ties in with what Brian built, and it's really a collection of all these capital items. And we're
One
talking to the
spreadsheet,
department
yeah.
heads for 19. So it is the 5-year plan. I mean, we're doing a little bit of capital planning work, just because, that group has got, 2 people, they don't have a quorum. Again, I think it's important to take a look at the
So
full
I'm
5
assuming
year.
this is just what we've received, those priorities may change as we go through it, right?
It always does.
Okay.
Always, I mean, the 5-year plan that we got in May, which you would think really shouldn't change that much
Change.
relative to, I mean, there's a healthy, delta, and the further you go out, the less meaningful it is. It's still important, and Joe touched upon it, to get a sense of what is out there.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
So, do you have anything else to add to?
I guess the only other thing I wanted to ask about was this issue of inventory and fleet and facilities and all that. It keeps coming up. I think Joe seems like he has like some great ideas about what he's implementing at DPW. But what can we do to kind of get everybody on the same page so that when we have requests like last night from the fire department, we have a context of where this request fits into the. I don't know.
Well, I think the other thing that relates to that is our discussion earlier around a level of discipline in justifying the request. Because we're not getting, anything in context from some of these. It's just a new truck. And
Yeah, well, I mean, they learn.
Yeah.
I mean, they get denied. They
Yeah.
don't get what they want.
But I think sometimes,
And then they come
I
back.
found this when I first did some stuff for the library. They just had no clue how to justify anything.
Yeah,
And you sort of had to sit down and you had to talk, okay, here's the demands, here's the weak points, here's what we would propose. So,
I mean, I think we were pretty clear on what we were looking for last night, from
I
fire.
think we were clear. I'm not sure if they walked away clear.
They can simply watch the video, and if they need
Yeah.
to,
But I
Listen
think,
to it again.
But I also think that that's fine and dandy for us to say, but there may need to be some coaching, whoever is liaison with them, about what they really need to bring in here to make a strong argument.
Yeah. I'll re-coach them. But I was pretty clear what we were looking for.
I'm happy to spend some time coaching as well. I've
Yeah.
certainly done more budgets than Carter has Inc.
Brian, last year there was some group did hand out an inventory of, and I think it was DPW, quite an extensive inventory. Now, maybe it wasn't in a format that we consider,
Of stuff that they have?
yeah. and
I know
it was
Joe
almost
has an
by
inventory of
VIN
all his
number, and
DPW
I don't
stuff.
have it here, but I'll look at home and I'll send you an email, or if I have it electronically, I'll send it.
But it goes to your email over the weekend, Ted, right? Where you mentioned if there was a total town inventory by
It
VIN.
needs to be standardized. I mean, I think we have
There
best
is one.
efforts.
I mean, I have a fixed asset list.
And
That's maybe a
anybody
place to start.
that deals with insurance, I'm sure.
Yeah, our insurance company has
The
all
insurance
of
company
our,
wants to know
they
about
have it by
VIN
VIN
number.
number and they
So
have,
why wouldn't we have that? Why wouldn't we have a copy of that?
But
we
that,
never asked.
if you had that inventory and then you could add other things to it. I
Right.
mean, the inventory would just be VIN number and the vehicle name and things that insurance companies are interested in.
Well, I will say,
Maybe we
because
can-
we have new auditors, and they were in last month, and that was one of the things, it's like fixed asset schedules. We'd never had fixed asset schedules anywhere, I don't know where. So we're kind of rebuilding them, so Linda and I were contacting the insurance. So this isn't something that's been sitting around for months, this was just created in the last
Oh, okay.
month.
You just saved
So-
yourself, because I was
Is it in
I
Excel?
was getting,
Sort of,
Or
yeah.
comma separated variables or something?
Yeah, I mean, I can get you what I sent the auditors.
Yeah.
but yeah, no,
Because we will want to attach other things in the other
Right.
columns.
yeah, no, I think that will be helpful. But and to your point, yes, I will make sure, I will follow up with the fire department and make sure that they fully understand what we need.
Yeah.
It is, it's only gonna serve every department head that much better.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones that have to
I would agree.
defend.
They have to make the case, and if they haven't a clue how
That's
to
right.
do that and what the information that you need to support their decision. or
Yeah,
not.
they gotta make the case to us. They have to make the case to the selectmen. They can get by us, right? We
Yeah.
can say yay or nay. Ultimately, it's them making the case.
But, I've seen just the variability of what people bring in terms of data to support their request.
Yeah,
And the kind of context they put it in to set their priorities.
But that still doesn't get you where everybody's on the same page in the broad scheme of things.
It moves
That's-
you in the
But you don't,
direction.
you may not necessarily need to have everybody exactly the same. I could make an argument that the police department fleet should be looked at slightly differently than the DPW fleet, which should be looked slightly differently than the fire department fleet, based upon the equipment and how they use it, and, you know, for the most part, the fire equipment sits, you know, they don't use it very much. When they do use it, you know, they're not traveling very far. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of idling, which is very similar to the police cruisers. And they have a lot of old stuff, but, you know, I would say, you know, the brush truck, which is a 1986 International manual transmission, probably, you know, will last a lot longer than some of the DPW stuff, just by the nature of how it's being used. So there's probably some commonality there. But I would say you may not necessarily need the level of detail on the police stuff, because we already have a schedule where they're buying a new vehicle every year, and there is a plan to rotate the thing out. So it's not like, you know, Bumper's gonna come in and ask for $35,000 or $40,000 for repair all of a sudden, because the method by which they're managing the fleet
It's different.
eliminates that problem,
Yeah.
you know, to some extent. So you may not necessarily need to scrutinize it as much. You know, and I think as this, you know, they're a long way to standardizing the fleet. They're moving, they're mostly on Fords now. They're gonna get rid of the Chargers. You know, we maybe introduce a pickup truck here and there, but, you know, I'd say there's gotta be some baseline. Then there may be some added things for each of the groups that may be different, you know.
yeah,
based
your
upon-
question, or what you identified last night with fire was spot on. Like, you gotta tell us what gap you're not achieving
Right.
right now, and you gotta lay it out. I mean, we need the fleet, what it presently does,
Right.
what does engine one do,
Yeah.
what does engine two do, like, what gaps are you missing?
Right, I mean, I heard a lot of, it's a great truck, and they could put these things on it, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be great, you know, all this
Yeah.
good stuff, but, you know, what are we not serving? Or what are we not getting done?
And
because we
that's
don't
the
have-
and that's the argument that they have to articulate to have us even consider.
No, exactly, and
Yeah.
that, and, you know, to your point, and, you know, when Brian and I first sat with the chief in Lorraine, you know, a couple weeks before Christmas, you know, the request was pickup truck.
And I have to say, I thought what they brought last night was really great.
Exactly,
I
so,
did too.
yeah, like,
The
we,
alternatives and the, I mean, I thought
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
and that was because, you know, we said, guys, you know, you're gonna need to, you gotta come in with a little bit more, because you're gonna get questioned why you wanna move from an SUV to a pickup truck, so, and I agree. They clearly took our, you know, suggestion to
Yeah.
heart.
And I think some of the other departments need that same coaching, so they
Yeah.
make an argument on its merits that is persuasive, and then we can decide whether it's a priority now or not.
I think that's a function that we, the liaison, can serve
Yeah.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And there's certain
Do all
templates for presenting a project.
the departments and groups have a liaison, or is it just the
Yeah.
big ones? Okay.
We have that list somewhere. You should have it.
Yeah, we,
I'll look for mine again.
yeah, we
It's
later,
a copy.
we put Ann on a couple.
Well, I just did the DPW with him.
Do you have your
Could be
.biz
good.
address yet?
Yeah, I saw it today on some email.
Let us know.
I don't know how to get to it yet.
I wouldn't.
Yes, that was an experience. You'll need to
So-
talk to the new Gary.
Who tells me how to do that?
oh,
It's the new gear.
it's a Gmail account, you just go to Gmail and then you sign in with a different account. Because you already have it.
Password, anything? I mean,
They give you the password.
Yeah, they give you
They
the
give you a
password.
okay, I've got the address, I haven't got the password, so it's just less.
They gave us the password. I can't remember what it is.
All right.
I have the
My computer remembers.
instructions from last year.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. As
Any
long-
other questions, comments?
I like directions.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Now I
Thank
stay
you.
here for the rest of the night.
No.
And the notch, having the door open made such a big difference.
I tried, well, they had negotiations in here and they